I have to repost mine, so be prepared to have to like something else.
Am I right, Nerdy?
Truly, we are bookends from the beginning of we were together. I mean, at the very beginning of I think Aurora in general. I mean, you were more behind the scenes on day one, but I feel like
True.
this is just going to become a standard practice for us, is to at least welcome us and end the seasons together, whether it be working production or being in front of the cameras together. I feel like being bookends is a great practice for us.
Yes, and speaking of the beginning and the end of Aurora series as well, we are bringing forth two titans, two veterans of the Aurora series that have been here since the beginning for our first banger to kick off the group stage. Reminder that the format is going to be 4 groups after a league format of round robins. It's going to be a many weeks. It'll be the best of each group. I believe 2 bests of each group going into a double elimination top 8 playoffs. So our teams, though, the grand reveal is UCSD Navy versus Conestoga Condors GC. And Artie, they have some history to say the least, right? All the games have been super close, double-digit map 3 affairs, but UCSD Navy has always come out on top. So, new season, new Conestoga Condors, perhaps?
Perhaps. I also hope that Conestoga was well aware of like the UCSD Classic. I remember discussing this with them during our second tournament series, specifically with their coach. I mean, we'll see it later on, but the map picks that UCSD likes to go with are pretty solid and pretty standard. And what their first ban out the gate is always also very standard. So with the game that is with the team that is that consistent, hopefully Conestoga is prepared to deal with that consistency, is aware of what they like to do, their common tactics, their common plays, and has protocols in place to help deal with that.
All right. Well, you talked about the map picks and bans. Why don't we get those on the screen to discuss them? And while they get pulled up and filled in, I am going to point out here that both of these teams, I said new Conestoga Condors, well, that's a lie almost in itself, because both of these teams actually are using almost the same rosters as last year, right? There aren't too many major swap-ups. So with the map picks and bans, here we go. Ascent and Lotus were banned. And if we get all the way, Icebox is actually going to be that third map. But like we said, Ascent to kick us off. And is this what you expected from UCSD, Nerdy?
Most definitely. I mean, okay, so our very first light tournament in Aurora, day one, this was when we only did weekend events too. Day one, the only map I remember seeing was Bind. Every team was picking it, and I understand why they picked it. But then UCSD comes in and is like, oh, heck nah. And instantaneously bans Bind. So I had to ask their coach about it, and their coach just said, we don't play it. I mean, we can, but we don't like it. So we ban it out the gate because so many teams like to actually play this map that we want to take away a strength of them. And that is by just straight up, if they get to ban first, they're banning Bind.
Yeah, I mean, it makes sense here. And I mean, it goes, I think, against Conestoga Condors as well, because this is actually their week 2 for group number D. Letter D. UCSD had a bye versus Conestoga Condors, won theirs 2-0, 13-5 on Bind, 13-2 on Ascent. So I think this pick works for them as well, right? Especially if they take away UCSD's pick of Ascent. But it looks like let's get ready to jump into the action here between these two teams fairly quickly. I think we're we're ready to go into our agent select. Correct me if I'm wrong. And when we do, what are we expecting to see? I'm expecting to see actually something spicy, perhaps. Unless Conestoga starts to take things seriously, because they pulled out a Kaz Reina last week on Ascent.
I was expecting them to actually go something pretty, well, relatively standard. And so far, what I'm seeing, at least from one side, looks standard. I mean, yeah, we've got a Reyna and we have a Jet. Sometimes teams only prefer to have one duelist, but this, I'm not surprised considering that we're seeing two of them. Honestly, though, I'm a little shocked that we're not seeing double blinds from that squad. I do know that some teams have been favoring that on Ascent especially. Also, a little curious as to why I'm not seeing a deadlock getting pulled. I'm waiting on the last two lock-ins over on our blue side, and let's see who ends up. We've got Omen, so there's one controller out. Something that I feel like, what do you think here, Zobi? I feel like controller on Ascent is kind of a paramount necessity, and the fact that we're opting to only have one on each side. Okay, I'm
normal.
I'm messing up. I thought I didn't see the Brimstone on the other side, so we're good. We're good. My
and
brain
Danny,
broke.
I love Danny because like Brimstone's not a normal pick, right, for the side of Ascent, I feel like. But Danny is just an insane Brimstone, man. I think I remember this like distinctly from last season. But this is interesting for the side of Conestoga Condors actually, because they actually went with, like I said, Kaz was on the Reyna, and it was Ella Bloom on the Clove. So they're actually changing things up here a little bit with that. There it is. The Omen instead of the Clove pick for Ella Bloom. Maybe, right, Ella didn't like having to frag out alongside the double duelist, and instead they wanted that paranoia to more set up the duelist. So that's going to be that difference that I look forward to seeing, really.
I got a little scared because Kaz also was hovering that Clove till the last second and then swapped to the Reyna. In my mind, I was like, wait, are we going double controller? Because if you're running double controller with just the initiation util coming from Sova, I don't think you actually have as much initiation power, especially considering you're going a double duelist pick, which double duelists have an insane amount of explosive ability to get on site from UCSD, but then it's the sustain on site that you have to worry about with the Sentinel control that comes into play from the KJ.
True. And I'm excited to see how that's going to differ as well. Just because for the Killjoy, right, you have that lockdown, you have, I think, higher retake ability on a site. So it also helps them, I think, with, again, more initiation power here so that they can get into the site a little bit easier on their attack path. So they can kick off here strong into that regard. And we already have a tech pause out the gate, all right? And no way to start off, I feel like, our first broadcast of the season than that. And with that, we just get to talk a little bit more. We get to slow down for a minute, breathe, rediscuss kind of the, I guess, history between these two teams, because it is something I'm excited for. Just because, like I said, these two teams, they've gone up against each other a few times actually, and history lesson time, Artie. They also kind of kicked things off with history against each other, right? Back in First Light, they were in the same group when they went up against each other. Fortunately, it was split, which isn't in the pool anymore. That UCSD beat Conestoga Condors on. It was a 13-10 though, and then when they finally, later in the season, were paired up against each other in the playoffs, which was the Surge quarterfinals, UCSD beat them narrowly in a 2-1. And I mean, the silver lining here, right, is that the maps for that were Lotus, Split, and Ascent. So Split not in the pool, and Lotus and Ascent were guaranteed both here today. And what's interesting there is that Lotus was 11-13 favoring Conestoga Condors, and then Ascent was actually a stomp, a 13-5. But I mean, it's a best of 3. That was already at the tail end of the series, so maybe starting off on Ascent when they have the full energy reserves is going to help.
Perhaps. The one caveat I will add to that, though, that is different. The energy that they're experiencing now is going to be vastly different than what they experienced during Aurora series and last year, because, as I mentioned, we did it on the weekends. So, like, you didn't have your day ahead of you. But also, because you aren't starting your day off, the first thing you're doing is Valorant. And it's early in the morning when most of these teams had to get started. They've had time to warm up. They've had time to prep. They've had time also to cool off from, believe it or not, a school day. So, my concern comes from are they mentally prepared to actually have to play out an entire best of 3 series when previously we weren't asking this of them on a school day? That could be drastically different. And considering it's middle of the week-ish, I want to see how much energy they're able to maintain, because you brought up the energy like it was Ascent last map and that turned into a stomp. will they be able to maintain high energy starting on Ascent, going all the way through a best of 3 series, considering it's already been a full day of being a standard human being, being a student? That is where my mind goes to as someone who is nice to be, relieved to no longer be in college. So my heart goes out to these players just out the gate, but I really am curious to see how well they're able to maintain energy from the beginning to the end. Considering these teams are so closely matched, I anticipate this being obviously not just a 2 map series. We're going all 3 maps, and I expect double digits on all of them. That is
that's a long day.
That's an estimate I'm willing to make. Yeah, that's the concern for me here is like, can you keep the energy up, and also can you not get so loud that people in the dorm get angry at you?
Well, I mean, okay. I mean, time zone differences, right? It's like not even 5 p.m. yet for UCSD Navy. And I think that was something they were talking about when they were trying to figure out, okay, what time do you want to play this game? Is that this is apparently the first day of classes for UCSD Navy, right? West Coast starts a lot later than the East Coast. So you talk about high energy, like this is a high energy day just in itself, right? Not only are you kicking off your Aurora Series season for UCSD Navy, because like I said, they had that first week bye, but it's also the first day of classes. So you're getting back into the swing of being a student simultaneously. Now, does this mean that they got to get some traditional scrims in, right? Because they weren't worrying about classes simultaneously? We'll have to see, right? I mean, they might not have even been in the dorms to be able to scrim consistently. It's literally just question marks in the air about how these two teams are getting prepared. But like I said, the fact that it is the same rosters for both of these squads is definitely going to help them, I feel like, and they're going to carry that synergy over from last season, versus some of the top teams that we've seen. Spoiler alert, they had entire roster resets. For example, Nerdy, this might be a shocker to you if you've seen the seeding. Carleton FE, right? They have an entirely new roster because all of them graduated. And so their seeding went like plummeting because it's all like newer individuals with no prior experience, lower ranks, and I'm excited to see if they can live up to their school's alma mater's name, right?
Okay, don't lay the pressure on them too thick before we haven't even had them on broadcast. What? You totally just put it on them thick.
I mean,
yeah, no, they can totally do it. They'll handle it. But I think these players are ready to go, so we can jump back in and see how things are about to start off. And yes, looks like everyone's ready. We've got one person, that's Ella Bloom, opting to go with a classic and a shield. Those are the scariest players, in my opinion. I understand that there are certain agents that you need to do this on. However, the people that are like, I need my shield for one extra opportunity to get you in the head, and typically they win the trade. That's all I gotta say.
Winning trades, right? I don't want to see this. Like, I don't want to see the selfish Reyna archetyped. I want to see them playing together off of each other, and that's exactly what they do aiming. But unfortunately, the exec for the side of UCSD seems to be headed towards this B side, right? You have that early utility exchange, the shock darts to get rid of Cypher utility and hold them at bay through this choke point, and it almost works. But Tina, Diligent, with the Lear finally expended, they're all going to final out simultaneously, and there's really not much counter here from Conestoga Condors. Maybe just going to play for the first 5-person retake.
I mean, double shock dart out, possibly attempting to just get a little bit of chip damage done to people grouped up, but none of that made contact. And yes, you're right. Here comes the floodgates entering into the point. That is 1 down for UCSD, but 2 gone for the Conestoga Condors. Never mind, we're equalized. Reyna using that Devour to get the overheal going. We'll sustain a little bit longer. We've got an exchange of fire, and it's going to be Sova versus Sova. Doggio is going to be eliminated. We're in a one-on-one, and it's Danny, the Brimstone that you mentioned was a tyrant, coming in clutch to get that final kill, and that's round win for UCSD.
And that is what we like to see for Pistol on your map pick, right? And I mentioned that we were saying that full retake for the side of Conestoga Condors, and while I think that they're, I guess, composition lends well to that with that double duelist, it's a pistol, right? You don't have maximum utility. So I really wanted to see either MGD play a little bit more on site, play more off their utility that, yes, was getting barraged by, Sova shock darts, or I really wanted to see the shock darts maybe a little bit later once they knew they were already out, because they hadn't seen any of them, right? It was just shock darts into the smokes. But speaking of smokes, the one way going a little bit awry here, but it might just allow them to sneak through undetected. The question is, are they going to clear this corner? Are they going to clear out Shroom?
Check your corner, check your... Oh no! Well, the trade works out kind of, so Panko should be able to get a gun upgrade, but the tragedy of not checking box. My soul just left my body. Because Grungle is also going to make our Sova have their soul be gone, and Tina will find Ella Bloom.
And just like that, A post plant is confirmed. There is a collected weapon you mentioned here. And the fact that they didn't even get nailed by any of those Spectre shots means that, yeah, you join forces with the Deagle. This could quickly go awry. The Ares, a nice first line of defense. Wallbangs can't hold typical angles, but you can't hold typical angles against MGD either. Deagle shot paired with, again, Shroom here. And Tina, I mean, yes, the Ares was buffed, but was it buffed enough? Dismiss out for info. Confirms that Ponko is out here towards lane, but it doesn't matter. They collected the Bulldog. They collected the 3K, and they're going to collect the thrifty for the side of Conestoga Condors.
Okay, so UCSD did a buy layout that I enjoy seeing now, which is one person going with an Ares. Sometimes, though, you'll see two Bulldogs, but the buy up of one Vandal and trying to actually limit the number of Spectres and Stingers that you're going with instead in favor of risking it for the biscuit to buy the slightly more expensive weapons. And what should have happened didn't come to fruition, unfortunately, which was, you know, you pair up with someone with a higher caliber of weaponry and you two swing together, you get the trade at worst and you pick up your teammate's gun if they had the better weapon, and if not, you two just win the duel at the end of the day. But unfortunately, their buy-up phase did not work in their favor, and now they're going into a fully decked out Conestoga team.
Revealing area.
Now, I mean, we're starting to see, I feel like, more of that, I guess, proactivity in terms of information collection versus, right, round one was very passive over towards the B site, right? We saw the early recon. And this is interesting as well from UCSD, right? More of a defaulted approach, right? Actually, I was going to say more of an A-side lean here, actually. And the concern now is that Conestoga Condors, I would say, is more heavily stacked over towards this site, right? You have the Omen to set them up to cancel out that exec, and then it's Kaz and the Jet to punish off of it.
Get out of my way!
Hear that Blade Storm get instigated, and now we also see that UCSD is backing away from A site. Crisella will find Tina, so our Reyna lurking near B has been discovered, eliminated, but we're still opting to quickly rotate towards this B site. I think Sova's Crisella is is actually aware of it and rotating back as well. I don't think they bought the idea that Reyna was going to be the only lurk. Yeah, Crisella's very patient.
30 seconds left.
And I like this. I like the repivot from UCSD because then the Blades have a pretty easy entry. And they've somehow dodged this trap wire that was very creatively placed. Now, that means, again, this passive ult from NGD, it means that they give the site up for free, but now they have those players alive for the post plant, which just might be the Conestoga Condor style. And let's see if they can get another retake under their belt, right? It got Thrifty on board, it got them their first round, and they're looking to replicate it.
We could see the paranoia go through from Elabloom, and I think the intent was to flood in after that, but unfortunately some Util catches them off guard, but it doesn't matter. Elabloom getting 2. Gringle got 2, but Elabloom said no. Yeah, it's okay, team, I got this, and we'll also get the defuse.
And I mean, they're showing me why they play so passively on this B site hold. They're confident in the retake. They're confident in their rotations. I mean, yes, right, Grungle, like you mentioned, with those blades slip through the cracks a little bit, but at the end of the day, just the trades I saw and the observing was to a T, just highlighting it as well, right? Just the easy swaps and the easy trades that came through. So Conestoga Condor, right? They keep the economy healthy. They keep now a lead in this first map for UCSD's pick. Now it's time for UCSD with weapons in hand to strike back.
This is the first time we'll see equal artillery power on both sides. And yes, I'm going to count the Bulldog as being pretty equal because some people have genuinely started to enjoy the Bulldog and are sticking with it as their weapon of choice. And I think Elabloom might be one of these individuals who's going to be holding out near tree. And we do have people walking up on Catwalk with our KJ swinging from tiles to make sure that tree doesn't open swing on these two as they're going through mid. See, Ella, you're going to be caught at 2-on-1 unless they give you 1-on-1 timing, but your elbow was revealed, so that's MGD and Elabloom both gone for Conestoga.
Ooh, and again, we talk about this proactivity towards A main, and they don't clear out wine, so Kaz has their back. A dynamic double duelist combination, and this duo is trying to take names here for the side of Conestoga Condors, and I like the fact both are trying to just tuck away, stay alive here. The only concern is that, yeah, Shroom, you have double swarm grenades. Blanco not going to shoot it. That's not a good decision.
Uses that updraft to get out of danger, but now is in a 2-on-1 swing. Shroom has to try and force Crisella to back off using that swarm grenade, trying to bait Panko to swing forward.
30 seconds left.
the recon bolt, I was low-key anticipating Pango to actually have swung off of that, but now Shroom is out of danger from one, forces the 1v1 and is now bloodthirsty. Smells the blood coming from this Jet, wants to get this final elimination, but was overzealous and will find themselves getting eliminated instead.
Ooh. And again, Conestoga Condors, I love how they played that, right? Not overheating, not allowing, Ponko to try and swing before, right? They were able to at least get some chip damage before Cresselia was able to kind of, I guess, cull the waters there for the journey, for the frag, and for the round for Conestoga Condors. And this is where for UCSD things are getting dicey, right? If you lose both of these next rounds, it's going to be 5-1. You're into another save round, and Conestoga Condor will be on a fast track, right, into a lead at this half. So I'm hoping we get to see a timeout from them soon, or we're hoping we get to see a change of pace. But the only pace change I'm seeing right now is them, I guess, aware of the fact that double duelist might pressure. And that's why Lina is solo crowd swinging, but it's not enough. Oh, it found Taz. I didn't even notice.
Yeah, it was a 1-for-1 trade, so I mean, it's not the best exchange fire you can have, but still better than nothing. However, MGD is going to take down Shroom in mid just under Archway after swinging out of that smoke. Ella Bloom blind swings an angle, does it slow enough that is easily spotted. We got a little peep of the ankle first, unfortunately. Got to be careful when you go for those swings. It's a... Jiggle peeking is one thing, but slowly walking an angle is never advantageous, as now we have Cresselia using that owl drone from the high ground, managed to get information. It was shot down, but now Grungle is aware that they are there, and MGD is trying to pull a little bit of attention towards Tree while walking towards Catwalk to go for this flank.
Ooh, but it's not going to work out. They read that to the letter.
Not ready yet.
As a result, Cresselia 1v2. They have the orbital strike.
There they are.
There's not much they can work with here. I mean, a Vandal I don't think can wall bang through. And look at the reflank round from Danny as well, just so they don't think both are there over towards Tree. They even got the Molly lineup, and I thought I was a nerd, but that's going to be the finisher if they even needed it. I said that Thirsty was a necessity for UCSD, and since they didn't go for a more directive sight hit after that initial exchange, I think that's what really gave them that round.
Look, when we ended up, truthfully, in the 2-on-1 situation, we saw that we had our Brimstone Danny walking really far away. A, I knew there was a Molly lineup, and B, I was like, well, we have Molly, we have Orbital Strike, plus we have our Jet tucked away inside Tree. Either Grungle swings and gets the elimination, or as soon as Grungle goes down and we confirm the tap on Spike, Danny is hitting the Orbital Strike or is hitting the Molly, and then there's no time left. So there was contingency on contingency plan from the Conestoga Condors during that entire post-plant defensive phase. So it was well executed. The question is, can they continue to do that once these ultimates get forced out? Now we're equal. We actually have more ults right now in favor of the Condors, but I think UCSD might be looking to find those kit players first.
Yeah, I think that's what the lurk play, right, from Shroom is trying to do, right? Get rid of the Cypher utility, maybe even force some of the rotations to come off the A site. Because I think they've also recognized that that's where the stack is. But unfortunately, MGD, this time, we talked about passivity, they're the one to draw that first blood. And now my concern is that while that was occurring, right, UCSD was fully committing to the rotation over to this site. I mean, yes, you know where MGD is, so you can maybe flush out that orbital strike early just to get the impact, but that's a hefty ultimate to invest here. And ooh, they're going to try and make contact Tree to bait this as an A hit before the B hit comes through. Doggio.
Doggio's actually, yeah, disengaging before even making any form of contact. The Leer, the Cloud Smoke, Hunter's Fury goes through. We have one stuck inside of that tripwire, but I think they made it around a door and we're ended up being safe. Hunter's Fury does not find an elimination. We hear the Molly go through as well to cut off an entry point. Panko will go down to Doggio. We've got exchange fire in mid from MGD trying to run the corner out of Pizza. Does find Doggio, unfortunately, and here comes in that Neuro Theft telling us where everyone is currently at.
These retakes are so clean, but it's still crumbling. A 3v2. MGD super, super low, so Kaz with his Empress has a lot to pick up for this team. Orbital Strike not popped because they're confident in the double swing. Grungle and Danny on the same wavelength there. And with that, slow, methodical approach, they're able to piece apart Conestoga Condors and tie things up now 3 apiece.
Okay, so that last round, we saw the Hunter's Fury get used. We also saw the Empress get used from the Conestoga Condors. Did And they use Neurotheft. They're just down 2 from the shadows as far as the ult economy goes. It'll give them the opportunity to get information on retake from Elebloom if they so choose to use that. I can foresee that being used, but possibly not this round, considering we are on a full eco. Deagle's in hand. I anticipate some heavily forward play coming out from the Condors.
Well, I mean, if they already lost a player, they don't have any of the smoke, so they can't
run.
retake, so I agree with that. But you can't be forward when there is a lockdown, right? That requires at least some respect. The players, though, are outside the barrier heaven. The Jet tucked away, but they're getting wall-banged. Like, the thoroughness from UCSD is to be respected here. My concern is not for the fact that they've taken the site and that it's a 4v5 retake. It's that they have the Orbital Strike and the Hunter's Fury online in accordance with that, right? So as long as these players stay alive, they should be good to go for this round. And that's not even enough for UCSD. You have the double duelist getting aggressive, and that might be their Achilles heel. That's a weapon handed off into the double duelist's hands, and now Conestoga Condor has, I guess, a tool to get back into the site.
I mean, they have Swarm Grenades, Molly, Hunter's Fury, Orbital Strike from UCSD. I would actually argue that having pushed forward like that was not advantageous to their current setup that they have. But Grungle is going to make up for it, finding 2, but ends up getting themselves eliminated. MGD has put up that Cyber Cage. There you go. There's the first round of the post plants, and the Molly is enough.
And I think that's, I think, very, very telling in terms of UCSD, right? Like, yes, they lost lead at one point, but now they've come back. Now they're leading 4-3. But the fact that they've only had to use the Incendiary, right, twice to get around in their favor, and they haven't even dipped into these ultimates, into the Shock Darts, into the Swarm Grenades, shows me that, right? It feels like an anime moment where, like, I'm not even in my final form yet, right? and Conestoga Condors, right? I think, like, they might have started to feel confident because those retakes were going so smoothly on the B site. But they haven't even figured out how to piece apart that monster that is the A site if this double duelist aggression over towards a main fails. So it's a big, I feel like, dependency in my mind for this and their defensive half.
So if you're UCSD, I think it is your main plan is A site most of the time, and B is a backup as needed, considering the retake that Conestoga does have for B site. It's just not worth it, truly. Their execution is very clean. They deserve respect with regards to their B site control and retake. They plan for it, and they know how to execute. I agree with you. It's that A site retake that they struggle with. So if UCSD takes advantage of it, I think they'll be more successful, as Doggio will find Panko early. And this is a partial save round, actually, for Conestoga Condors, so it makes this round, this retake, even more difficult.
Yeah, but Kaz was able to recover that rifle, it seems like, off of their fallen teammate, off of Panko. So 4v5 retake, like you mentioned. The utility is my issue here, right? Paranoia already utilized, and no one was there to punish off of it. So what I would have wanted to see, right, was this owl drone used first from Castelia, and that guides the Paranoia, that guides the retake for these two teams. But at this point, right, now the plans upon plans have been developed, right? Shroom with the reflank, players in position for this Orbital Strike, for this Hunter's Fury, if they even need it, right? Grungle has been insane here, and so has their Reyna just being that distracting force. And once they realize, okay, we're not going to need these ultimates, that's when the rest to join Grungle for the fight, particularly there, the Sova out of main, closing things out alongside the side of UCSD. So this lead going to remain firmly in their favor.
I think if you're a Conestoga right now, you need to, like, Grungle is perpetually playing point currently for UCSD. And the unfortunate truth is someone is finding themselves very early in the crosshairs of Grungle because they're solo swinging a corner. They're peeking an angle by themselves. They aren't using util to get info first. Instead, they're opting to use themselves to do it without the backup of someone else being there. And going in the 1v1, it's Grungle who perpetually is having the advantage. So we need to create an advantage for ourselves, and that's either use util, figure out they're there, or swing with a partner.
And that swing of the partner hasn't really been working out because the fights aren't being given by UCSD anymore, right? The developments have been coming really, really quick. Like, they're fast learners at this rate. But, you know, you can always throw a new trick up their sleeve, a new topic, and that seems to be what Panko and Kaz are trying to do here, right? With this follow-through on the A main space. I mean, look at how deep Reyna is, and is Danny holding that angle? You've got to be joking. They aren't. Okay, maybe they just weren't paying attention, but that's spiked down, and they haven't overheated either. They disengage. They understand, all right, Stinger's not going to work in this long range. And I think they're also just distracting now for the Jet, who has a better weapon.
Attention is a very heavy resource in any game, and I think trying to pull attention to make sure your jet has clearance to get through is actually a very smart play, and we're now for UCSD just opting to all go through B main. We saw them in lobby for a little bit of
30
time. I
seconds
think it was just to grab that spike and continue forward, but now they have no controller. That is where things get a little difficult. We're gonna kill the tripwire with that shock recon with the shock bolt. Grungle goes down though, and then we end up getting the trade from Tina. Tina gets punished, just missing inside of CT.
Found them.
Oh, and what a dismiss. It keeps them alive, but also the deagle shots from MGD have been raining out. And this is what I said, the B-site retake, it is the, you know, coup de grace for Conestoga Condors at this point, right? They're always so clean, always so flawless in this site in particular. And so if you hit this site too many times on the side of UCSD, then Conestoga Condors might just walk away with I would say a close half, right? So if I'm UCSD, I'm like, all right, guys, we're not going B anymore. Like, just A. They haven't figured out how to retake against this. They haven't even come close in my mind, right? I think the only round where it fell apart over towards A was because Shroom was in that 1v2. That's what I mentioned prior, right? Was the fact that only works if that double duelist of Paco and Kaz is able to get the advantage early outside of A main. So if UCSD slows it down, if they avoid that, then yeah, A is like not a problem for them.
Well, the other thing is, when it comes to this B take from UCSD, we don't we either attempt to go A and then opt to go B after recognizing how many players are there. But what I'm not seeing, and what I would actually prefer, is maybe fake B and go A. I say that because Conestoga is aware that their B retake is much better, and they're willing to back off of B and let UCSD take it and for it to play into their protocols that they have, that they want to execute. Instead, the other option is on A site. They're playing much further forward than I think they're comfortable with, because they're trying to stall for time, because the retake ability for their squad on A site is lacking so heavily that someone is willing to put themselves in the line of fire earlier than they are on B site. So I think faking B site and then rotating back towards A, where someone will push up, and punishing that would be advantageous for UCSD, and then flooding into A site.
I mean, that makes sense. I do think you're correct that in terms of that floatability that you said, it hasn't been there just because, right, the kill driller from Shroom, the A split nature has definitely been really, really good at dismantling this. But this is the change that I think was discussed during that timeout, right, was how to counter this A hit, because they knew it was inevitably going to come again, right? Like I mentioned beforehand, B is the only site that Conestoga Condors can retake, so of course UCSD is going to give them that opportunity. So what do? They claim all this B space for free. They tried to maybe overwhelm a Shroom lure, but now the mid fight has to go in their favor at a well-placed paranoia, and all this is really just to set up Kaz for this flank, for this success, and Shroom isn't aware of it. That's spiked out, and again Kaz goes back for seconds with this Empress, with the dismiss as a possibility, as a feasibility, and I mentioned it beforehand, you've got to stop UCSD before they get that plant on the A site, and Conestoga Condors has done just that.
I find it interesting that we rotated up through mid, and I think we were caught off guard by the Condors opting to go into lobby and tiles on B site. We didn't predict the probability of people trying to claim space, which the Condors have. I mentioned they claim space on A site way more than they should, and they've been punished for it. Why wouldn't they do that also on B? Well, they changed things up, and we didn't predict it. We didn't evaluate the opportunity for that to occur in our mid-push. So we walked out into 3 lines of sight from defense, and we did not smoke a single one of them. And for that, UCSD got punished. Tiles wasn't smoked, archway wasn't smoked, tree wasn't smoked, door into A site wasn't smoked. Covering all of those angles being open for anyone to swing out onto, or to get intel on your squad walking up on catwalk, I think was a little too risky.
And, I mean, I think it's because prior to that, right, and this is again going back to the Conestoga Condors timeout, is that there was no contestation for mid, right? There was no player pushing out B main. Like I said, it was a very passive hold from MGD because they trust in their retake-ability of the B site. They trust in MG to hit those shots from market off the trapwire contact. So if you don't have any reason to believe that, you know, Conestoga Condors is punishing you for that, then yeah, walk down with it without any utility. But now that they're trying to punish, right, whether it was that paranoia last round or the operator from Panko this round, they're recognizing, all right, we can't take this space for free anymore. And this is where I'm hoping that we get to see the adjustments come out for UCSD.
Well, the one thing I also will say is we've had KJ from UCSD walk up mid and get punished at archway multiple times. So it's like, yeah, they're not forwarding too far into the mid zone, but they are still hovering enough to know when people are there. So I think just the lack of resource giving, was the unforgivable aspect of that play. And now, yes, you're correct. We've compensated. We're fixing it. We're playing a little more impatient, holding angles for a few more seconds. Grungle will find that trade will actually find the elimination onto Panko. And now that's going to put UCSD at the operative advantage here as they push in. But we swing out of the cloud smoke without any assistance from our Reyna. Where was the Lear? Kaz is just going to dismiss and create pressure at Tree to let their team come in and play for time.
And this is, I feel like, the most even 4v4 retake we've had in a hot minute. But still, those post-plant ultimates lurk in the back of your mind for UCSD, Orbital Strike, Hunter's Fury. So I need to see this Neural Theft. I need to see this Hunter's Fury fuel these duelists, and that's exactly what it's going to do. Set up the Reyna for the re-entry, but Shroom with the challenge, right? The player that doesn't have an ultimate, but they've been pinged up at a spy camp. Now they're having to play Ringer on the road with the smoke, but here comes the backstab. We see it time and time again, and now they're two reigning players. Our entry, you have your Reyna, so I think they're going to get away scot-free again without having to use these ultimates, and that is a scary thought. 1v2, but time is dwindling. Cresselia has so much they have to get done, and now this realm has slipped from the realm of possibility. Lina, the finisher here, and just like that, UCSD locks it at least in the half. Locks in that safety point at the half.
At best, UCSD is looking at a 7-round advantage. Well, 2-round advantage, 7-round score at halftime. At worst, they're looking at 6. So I think my prediction of we're gonna see double digits on both sides for 3 games in a row is standing. I'm holding myself to that now. Cards all on the table. I'm all in. I hope both these teams are well hydrated and ready for an extremely long series. Kaz currently being our top frag with 12 eliminations thus far is only going to continue to move up. Cresselia, I think we have got 2 holding on A side instead of Cresselia holding over more on B, which is interesting. But Panko looked at top mid, gets a few daggers in the face, but it's going to be okay.
Ooh, and Cresselia, I liked the play, but they overstay their welcome here. This is also a change, right? MGD not expected to be on the A site, so again, Conestoga Condor trying to find a way to counter this B site, but this is when I said it, when things go south, UCSD has these ultimates to fall back on, and it gets 1 and at least some chip damage on the Jet, so Kaz looking hopefully to remedy the situation, and Danny with an over peak here, and now they have the Hunter's Fury. UCSD might have to finally invest both these post-plan ultimates. We'll see what Grungle can do. Here it comes, and the chip damage is enough to finish them off in 1 electricity strike. Panko not going to clear out line, so Grungle remains, and all of a sudden it is a 1v2. Its fight wasn't halved, and now recon bolt out. Should be easy pickings here for the Sova. Here it is, gun swap time. They're just baiting down the clock at this point. Smoking 5, but there might not be 5 for Ella Bloom. The shot's stone alone.
Go for it, Ella Bloom! Woo! You got this, you're good!
They are.
Well executed, Ella Bloom! I mean, I was sitting here holding my breath. I was holding my breath.
Same while speaking. Because finally, by the end of the half, right, they remedied the situation, right? Like, that's all I could ask for. And the fact that, like I said, what was the score last time these two teams bet on Ascent? 13-5, and they've at the half gotten more than that?
There's definitely a lot of improvement. And also UCSD, the one thing I will point out is that they were a newer squad during their first appearance on Aurora as well. Yes, the scoreline is tied, but I think both these teams have dramatically improved. There was a lot of shakiness from UCSD. It was relying simply off gun skill. I feel like it wasn't executing well thought out plays. It wasn't full-on teamwork. We weren't seeing duo swings from both the duelists. It's great to see these adjustments coming from both these teams during this game. It's been almost a full year. I'll count it. So, like, the improvement is there. It's visible. It's what we love to see here as a part of Aurora series and across the board. I'm excited to see now how Conestoga performs on offense. They had great execution on B side for their defensive retakes, but what is their type of strategy and pacing here? It looks like they're favoring more towards that A side. They use that paranoia. Danny's going to get hit and is now forced to try and put down these smokes to give their team the information of, hey, they're looking to push A site and do it in a manner that protects their squad.
Oh, but true protection here is coming from backside. Grungle alone in hell and is now finally getting swarmed by Conestoga Condor members. As a result, they are going to get the site. They're going to keep this advantage of 4v2 now. As MGD and this lurk through tree from mid is beautiful alongside the Omen. And here it is Panko with the frag. Very nicely done to close out the round and get Conestoga Condors the lead actually converted.
From the front.
Now we're going to see again that buy system that I mentioned earlier. going with the heavier weaponry as opposed to just Spectres and Stingers, but there is Cresselia who has to opt for paying for a lot of utility, I think, and is also wanting to buy a very expensive weapon here pretty soon, I think. So it's just going to stick with the Deagle this round, and that means their dynamic duo likely is going to be MGD, I think.
Makes sense. That's typically how this is played, but what isn't typical to a T. Just look at this aggression over towards B main. I like me a good cook and eat, eco strategy, but I also love the recognition of it from UCSD, right? The trap wire there, so as soon as it's destroyed, as soon as it's popped, they're gonna know of it, right? So that communication comes through. But this is what I want to see: is the delay, the split potential of this incendiary, of this brimstone, because that's really all this controller brings when you don't have a paranoia. So that's your only stall tactic. Now that it's been, foregone, it's gonna be a full 5-person retake, and I mean, look at the better weapons. Kaz, just don't hand over this Vandal. That's all I ask. Or this Phantom, sorry. I mean, it's silence from both ends here. Just waiting to see when the proper time to strike is, and Kaz is gonna be the one to do it!
Kaz takes a bold swing and a 2-on-1. Actually was 3v1 for a moment. Finds both eliminations, make that 3. And we do see Alaboom will be eliminated, but at the end of the day, it is still Conestoga Condors with 4 players left standing on the field to be victorious in that round. So that puts their score at 8. So right now, UCSD needs to show up. The current advantage is showing for Conestoga, but now they should be able to buy full semi-automatic rifles. Let's go. Post up, show up with the full artillery, but unfortunately, due to some buys from our duelists, we're not able to get those full shields for both of them. I mean, you take one shot to the head from a Vandal, either way, you're dead.
But from that deagle with Elabloom, you wouldn't be. So that's what I'm going to be looking forward to, is seeing Conestoga Condors in the GCD, perhaps. But fortunately, this time they're going to evade it. I mean, now it's headed in the site exec again. We saw Kaz in their late round impact. Now they're trying to be that entry instead of the Jet here. Ponko takes the brunt of the damage here, and again they get a site pretty much uncontested other than backside Tina here, and they still get shut down. And Ponko 3 kills with the Guardian. So much for the GCD. When you have Ponko
like butter, baby.
okay, they also have Danny on their side, 2 frags now. I want to say they knew about the reposition, but it seems that isn't the case. Elabloom able to close it out, and Conestoga Condors, ever since the sides have swapped, have been trucking along nicely.
I unfortunately think it was the evacuation strategies for UCSD on the B site hold that actually was their undoing. I mean, opting to play inside the back of B as opposed to just going to CT for our KJ was their own undoing. Had they just run a further away instead of posting up on site and trying to find the trade opportunity, they would have been able to live longer, come back with the rest of their squad. And that's exactly what the Conestoga Condors were doing. They played off site and waited for their team as opposed to staying on, and hopefully UCSD makes an adjustment for that during the next retake here on B site, which is going to be very soon. It looks like they are, because we've got people near Pizza in mid and 3 on A site, so there is no other choice but to play further back.
Just like that, UCSD soft spot in the economy, perhaps in this series, right? This is their map pick, and Conestoga Condors are starting to pull ahead, likely to lock in double digits unless we can get another Thrifty on the board. But that's what I asked for, right? The first half, and what turned around the half? A Thrifty. So it's definitely in their wheelhouse. It's in their realm of possibility. But Kaz, again, gets an Empress online, and they've been that difference maker for this squad. Now the third from Conestoga Condors complimenting it, right? Not giving an opportunity to the sniper rifles, so should be a pretty smooth rotation over to the A side. But this is actually where the stack is for UCSD.
It was called out by our people inside Pizza that there was a mid-rotation Shroom just playing at the edge of the cyber cage. Unfortunately, I think got one of their teammates punished. Danny and Grungle both fall. Shroom will find one elimination onto Panko. Can they swing and get another? No, MGD finds that one. There's a follow-up from Doggio to find MGD, but Doggio goes down to Kaz. It's a 1v3, and Kaz is going to be one with a full weaponry in Empress, and it's just Tina with a classic. I mean, you could just opt to go down to the spike.
Oh, or you could try to clutch. But in the end, only the right-click RNG can carry you into 1 frag. And I mentioned it, right, that Empress, that kind of insurance policy for this Reina, who is 20 and 9, mind you. So truly a nightmare in the server at the moment. So true queen. And this puts Conestoga Condors on a double digits. So UCSD, this is really their last opportunity, right? The buy, the operator, all coming online when they need it most. If they lose this, Conestoga Condors, unless you get a thrifty from UCSD, they are going to be sitting on map point.
All right, look, I'm not biased towards any team, but UCSD, I need you to win a few rounds here because I want my prediction to be right that we're hitting double digits on every map. All right?
That is true. You did put all your money on that, so we'll
I did.
have to see it.
All of my theoretical bills were put on it. As we have Grungle get one and get another, get a third. Can we get a fourth? We get a fourth. Ace! The ace will be ordered by MGD. The MGD, the revenge from Doggio came in saying, I'm sorry, Grungle. But at least I got the follow-up kill.
Oh my goodness, an MGD there. I would be like, all right, you're my new enemy, MGD. Grungle's gonna be going at them. And they have the Blades online out of that 4K as well. So that's huge. So I mentioned right prior that if you lose your next round, if you don't have a stable economy, which it seems like they'll have a stable buy even if they lose this next round, that would be Conestoga Condors on map point. But now you have the Bladestorm, even if the rest of the team can't buy up with you, which we know can be huge for converting thrifties. But we'll cross that bridge when we get there, because UCSD trying to pull a comeback out of the weeds, and that was a great start. Because of that heroics, they kept most of these rifles online. They kept the operator in the dark as well, so we couldn't get an opening frag like that. And that's your smoke spore and exec eliminated.
If you're Conestoga right now, I think, truthfully, we're looking to get information, find the site we want to go to, and the way we do that, we support our Cypher, who currently is our spike holder. Unfortunately, we lose Doggio, and then we blind swing a corner by ourselves into the operator. Come on, we knew where Tina relatively was after the first elimination on our own, and we should have known they were still over here, and left and opted not to go to that site. Pun intended.
Well, it feels like Tina was like, all right, Grungle, you can't take all of the glory, right? I'm a duelist in our team as well. With this operator as well, they just keep swinging into it. And that's what we mentioned about that first frag being in the smokes. That's so important, right? Because that only buffs Tina and their ability here, right? And that seems to be the case so far. They finally have decided to hit through a point where the operator no longer is holding the angle. At this point, you still have even dealt with Grungle backside, who's likely still riding the high of their 4K from the last round.
Oh, we hear the leer. Double cyber cages get popped over on B site. This is we got to get in fast, but Grungle hiding in the back of Boathouse gets swung by Kaz. MGD will be able to confirm the spike plant.
I know exactly where.
And there's the neuro accept to make up for the lack of players on the field, but MGD will go down. We still get that first blip and the second. It doesn't matter. It's already started. It continues, but Kaz now is in a 1v3.
Oh. But that's going to be the ace clutch online if they can do it now, and this operator makes it easier, but they don't know where it is, so it's going to have the line of sight perfectly into the swing, and 4K for 4K. Doesn't matter if the kills are the same because the impact is there for Tina of UCSD. The Reina finally pulling ahead of their counterpart and keeping UCSD on the road to recovery.
As much as this world hurt me, it's still mine, and I will kill to defend it.
All right, now let's play a little game here. How do we think UCSD is going to use these ultimates? Because during the first half, I'm pretty sure Hunter's Fury and Orbital Strike weren't used until the final round of first half. So now that we're looking at a disadvantaged state, it is 10-8 as opposed to, them being up by 2 or it being very close and them still having a lead or equalizing opportunity. Do you think we're going to see a usage of these two ults a lot earlier now?
I think they're going to be used for the retake, right? Especially because the B hit's coming through. They first have that Killjoy utility to have Reliance on. I was going to say they could use that for Boathouse clearance, but they're just going to use it to force them out, force them back, to isolate Kaz as well, who popped the entrance, was already on the entry. And at this point, right, I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing for Kaz, because as long as they find the frag, right, the overkill's going to come online regardless. But the question is, will they find that frag? Ponko has held off for now, and there it is. So now it's just nullified. It doesn't matter. And Grungle, again, is going to be asked alongside Tina to pick up the slack. The duelists alive. You mentioned ultimates. Is this where we see the Blades? Is this where we see the Empress? I want to see a handoff, because I don't think an operator can retake here.
Imagine a dropping of the op. We hit Empress and Bladestorm, and we just flood into sight. I know it's a little bit of a crazy take to do both of them, but I think sometimes it's a little bit worth it.
And one shot, never mind!
One enemy remaining.
But it's gonna be Kaz And a late strike from MGD! And just like that, Conestoga Condor finally break the streak of UCSD in their recovery here. And just like that, the economy a little on the fritz here for the side of UCSD. Most can be able to get by us, but there are some weak spots.
I love how you mentioned a rough economy, and I'm staring at the most expensive gun in the game.
The light shield with it. I mean, if I got a 4K with a clutch like that, I would be wanting to carry the weapon still as well.
Valid. We gotta support the ego. And plus, I mean, Grungle can't afford, but Grungle has Blade Storm, and we'll be able to use that to compensate for the lack of weaponry.
And just like that, it is going to be the operator holding down the A sight line, which is where we see Conestoga Condors gently creeping up. And my concern here is what happened last time this operator went on a terror raid. It was the Omen dying first. Nice from the shadows to try and get information, but they don't spot Tina out, and the op shot missing means that big weapon that you mentioned that's been purchased up, that's been invested in, is not going to get dividends of return here. Danny trying desperately to wrestle back the advantage, and the timing is there. Now the Hunter Fury is there. They're trying just to delay with all they can to buy time for this flank play. This trap wire. Now the sound cue, the updraft. And look at MGD. The late play from them. This could be everything.
Sentry.
It was a beautiful swing coming from UCSD. Their duelists both, they high-load. One swung while crouching, the other one swung while standing, making it borderline impossible for the operator to stay up. Well, from Conestoga for the operator to stay up. And unfortunately for UCSD, putting all their eggs in one basket. And I mentioned it earlier, it's the solo swinging from both teams. That being too far forward, being there without util, and opting to go without information and holding angles has been getting heavily punished. It's just Conestoga made adjustments. They rectified the situation. We saw the double swing when they're attacking on A site. They predicted the desperation buy of the operator. UCSD is still falling into these bad habits and needs to fix it now, or it's the end of Ascent.
No charges
left. And the end of their map pick as well. And you can see the, I guess, desperation and the buy, and Conestoga, their confidence right here in taking this mid fight. And that's my concern here is Conestoga Condors have to be careful. They decide to push out of this mid smoke. Now they have no information about who may be lurking beyond it. We've seen MGD go for these late flank plays, which might be what they're also trying to pinpoint and isolate here. But just the timing is misaligned. They're just holding diligently. And how is this going to end?
Doggio staring down tiles. MGD just outside of it. There's the paranoia from Ella Bloom. Panko uses the cloud smoke. Tailwind goes in, drops the door. Both the swarm grenades to cut off the points of evacuation for Panko were used, so Panko ends up getting eliminated. Grungle, who opted to go on a different angle through mid up towards Pizza, will find MGD, which is not where I think they anticipated the UCSD defenders to be standing, and we fully backed off this time. No one's overstayed their welcome in Boathouse.
Here it comes now. Undershuri just to try and keep control over this site, and it's gonna work. Kaz able to punish off of it effectively. The trade good for Cresselia, but at this point it's a 1v2. You're back up against the wall because of this timer, because of this lockdown, and the punishment is perfect for Doggio as well. UCSD gonna stay in Ascent at least for another round. Conestoga Condors, a waiver.
I mean, if you're Cresselia in that moment, I mean, go for it, make an attempt, but you're in a 2v1. Your team has the advantage. It's not as though your economy is going to be in the best, but not also in the worst spot. This is now, we have to win this round because if UCSD goes up to 10 and we stay at 12, we're going into a full save, and we're almost guaranteeing going into overtime at that point. But now, also looking at UCSD, we can see Doggio and Tina both pretty broke. Shroom not far behind. So we're in desperate waters for both of these squads as far as economy goes. This is rubber meeting the road, make or break. Conestoga, this is your match right now. You can win this in this round.
And if they don't, then that's another opportunity for UCSD, because Conestoga, I don't think they'll be able to buy again after this next round. It feels like they think it was just maybe lightning striking once here on that failure of the B-side exec. Plus, they don't really have time to get out because the incendiary is blocking their path, so they have to commit. And unfortunately, that alarm bot is tracking and tracing and chasing Ponko on the site. So they know one is stairs, they know one is main, but they recognize both MGD is there as well. But this is now a 5v5 retake, a first blood drawn finally onto Ponko by Danny. And it's pretty, you know, smooth around the edges. No ultimates really other than Empress for UCSD that could, I guess, throw a wrench into things.
Castelia narrowly dodging that shock dart.
Oh,
Four people swing into where our Cypher was at, but MGD still gets 2. Grungle picking up 2. Shroom picking up 1. UCSD is hanging on by a piece of thread right now, and that is all they need to stay together. We have hit double digits for both squads, 12-10, and now Conestoga, they're in eco. Both these squads, honestly, if UCSD hadn't won and we weren't at match point, they were going to be in eco round. If Conestoga hadn't won, they were in eco. I mentioned it, I think, 2 rounds ago, that both of them weren't very healthy.
And just like that, like I said, the economy is smattered and tattered for the side of Conestoga Condors. So UCSD likely to put up an 11th. And look at that, you get to keep your money for now, Nerdy Bird. The double digits for both sides. For Conestoga Condors, I was about to point out, Ponko has the blades. So this would be devastating for it to end on a thrifty, right? Fortunately, they pinged it out. Fortunately, UCSD has also taken heavier aggressive A main space, much like Conestoga Condors was in their first half. This is what I like to see.
Kaz with the Marshall. I respect Marshall play more than I respect Op play. I will go on record and I will die on this hill.
I like Outlaws better than either. Not in Ascent, though. You don't really see the Outlaw much. You usually see it on, you know, Lotus, Icebox. But we'll get to see, hopefully, Tina with this Phantom. The Paranoia, though, they had to cut their losses. Now they've taken all of this space back off of 1 and 2 pieces of utility. A thoroughness as well to clear out all of A main. Does mean less utility for the site itself, but look at this. UCSD's learned, right? They know this mid flank's coming. They've taken care of MGD. And yes, Kaz was also there, but they only had that Marshall. So we'll see if they can maybe collect a weapon off of their fallen teammate, off of MGD, if they can continue to carry the torch that died alongside MGD. So far, not. No spot out of the B sites. These players can anchor for UCSD on A as well. It's going to make this even more dangerous of a hit.
30 seconds left.
Launching smoke.
Danny, who's in tree, is boldly walking forward, gets punished by Panko, but Panko can't pull out the sidearm fast enough, so Grungle, Doggio, Tina, all finding eliminations. It is just Castelia left standing, and now we're at 12-11!
Oh, just like that. This is where, yeah, you finally take a stop of your Conestoga Condors. In the last half, this, I feel like, was a really good timeout, right? It allowed them to come up with different strategies to contest kind of the A site retake. So maybe it's what they need to close out to prevent an overtime against UCSD because, you know, granted, yes, UCSD was able to get that 11th on the round, but that was also a save for Conestoga Condors, right? So they should be back to full strength to try and close out this first map.
Okay, so the one thing I will say for the Conestoga Condors, where they, for UCSD, where they were standing that round, I'm a little shocked that Conestoga didn't see through it as well as they did previously, because UCSD posted up on A site and used their utility in the exact same manner that they had the round prior. Well, sorry, the first pistol round when they were on defense. So the fact that Conestoga lost to this same protocol was interesting because the last time they did just fine, but this time they really struggled. Yes, they were on a pistol round. They were on pistols, but UCSD did not have full shields across the board either. So I expected a little bit more, I guess, eliminations from Conestoga. Maybe not as much, maybe not winning the round, but a little bit more success in the duels.
It makes sense for sure. And I think that's, again, also just the fact that Conestoga Condors, as I mentioned prior, they have not beat UCSD once in a series, right? So the confidence and maybe the elation can carry them into taking fights that they think they're going to win, but then they won't. And this could be a strategy that puts them on the map. Finally, an Odin coming out. Whoa!
Let's go, Shroom with the Odin!
First
Right
blood
here.
drawn onto a major entry, the major fragger for Conestoga Condors. Site control still gonna be taken here, which is
Spike
really, really
planted.
nice. And now I fall back to MGD. Their lurks have been catastrophic, if not pinpointed. But it seems like Tina aware. The operator re-pulled out, and the frag is good. So the overheal is gonna neutralize all of that impact. 3v5, the numbers are crumbling. Someone has to step up to the plate and hit a home run out of the park. Tonka looks like they are primed and ready to be that player.
UCSD is really taking their time to come back in here. It's like they're
This is
scared
not good.
to play.
Player
Yeah,
standing.
they're scared to play for the trades, even though they have
Okay.
the agent advantage. Okay, that took way longer than it should have.
I thought for a second they were gonna get Danny with that Hunter's Fury, and I was scared. But I agree. Look at
did.
that.
The party.
Down
did.
to the wire. Less than a second left, but when all else fails, they still get over the
Switching
finish line. They
sides.
still bring us
Overtime.
into overtime on map 1 of Ascent on our first broadcasted game of the Aurora Series season.
Look, the fact that they even tickled Danny. Now, Danny was dead center of that first Hunter's Fury shot. The fact that they even did it, I instantly, like, my heart was in my throat for a moment, because I was like, if you kill Danny right now and Hunter's Fury is still in animation, like, it is harder for someone else to pick up the spike and continue the defuse, and you are right up against the, like, you might not have enough time to do this now. So I got a little worried, but their celebration was okay. We're now tied.
Ooh.
My Monopoly money gets to stay in my pocket.
And I think what I like here from Conestoga Condors and the sides have swapped is they've remembered what their coach said in the first half, right? They remember the changes that worked for them, right? They've now have the Cypher over towards A. They have the aggression from the double duelist over towards B main. My only concern is, again, that momentum is in the side, is on the favor of UCSD here heavily, right? Those 4 rounds to get them now into overtime. And so that might just affect how you hit your shots. So I'm going to be eyes on both of these Reynas here over towards B main for a while until this exec goes fully into the A site, fully into the Cypher utility. That's also a concern of mine, is I feel like last time we had the Cypher held, right? So MGD wasn't going to have to take this line of fight, like this line of sight, this fight themselves. Because you lose that, you're going to lose all of that control over the A side. I wanted paranoia. I wanted some other player here with delay utility, because now they're not even really in a spot to punish off the Cypher utility that easily, right? Like, yes, you have one trapwire in the door, but that's easily destroyed. And now all you have is Spy Cam in when a 5v5 retake. Ooh.
For Casalia, taking care of Tina. Oh, Conestoga, you've got the agent advantage. We did back off. This is like a hallmark play here for Conestoga, is maybe getting a trade, but ultimately they opt to give up space and retake as a team. And I'm pretty sure UCSD is well aware of it, but as we have a double swing,
Last player
it's going to be
standing.
2 more being eliminated, and it ends up leaving us with just UCSD having 1 player left standing, and it is Shroom all the way here in the back.
And there's no way. They're just sticking it through and through. No utility left. No bullets left. The classic swing. You don't save anything in overtime, and seems like they cannot save the round either. Conestoga Condors pull ahead, dent the momentum for UCSD, and then again have an opportunity to close out this map, and they're definitely going to take it in full stride, right? Overtime and all. They know this is where they want to close things out, or things are going to get away from them.
The Condors were very successful during the first pistol round phase of the second half of the game on their attack. They were able to protect where UCSD was planning on posting up on A site, but we're actually opting to be more towards B site. Remember, Condors went A site at round 13, and instead they're going B site here. I think this is just solely because I think UCSD has a stronger A site hold than they do for B site. And I hope UCSD recognizes that and opts to lean a little bit more heavily towards B site and go for the A site retake, even though I think A site for both squads is still difficult.
I think the retake is really, really nice from both teams on B. I agree in
Oh,
that
yeah.
degree. I think we've seen hope on the B site for the side of Conestoga Condor, so I do think that would be a good idea. It's just going to hinge again on MGD and their ability to get in a really good position to go for a flank play. So I want to see a change in position as to where they're playing. And look, they're taking my advice, right? Come on, keep going. No, why'd you turn around? It's like they heard me. I was going to say, if they start maybe top mid, right, and go for a flank that way, right, like through tree, really, really far away, they might not go across these safeguards that we start to see get developed by UCSD to take out players like MGD. But here it comes, the full-on strike, and a lot of killjoy till the end. The resurgence of the Odin this time, though, not going to fall into that trap. And instead, they're going to get ahead of it, fighting here into market. Kaz is back online and cannot be stopped. No overheal, so they will be at 15 HP, but the job has been done. The site and advantage has been taken. But even if Kaz is gone, that's a 3v3 retake. This is still feasible, other than the possibility of the retake with an operator.
Spike planted.
I mean, we saw how this went last time with Arena with an operator trying to retake a site. It
4K
is
clutch.
it's well, Kaz also got spotted out. They have 15 health. I'm pretty sure they're like, well, yippee, this is exactly what I need. Shock dart. One of these is probably gonna hit me. Never mind. We're gonna use one, try to flush out the angle. Instead, the cloud smoke allows Doggio to go in and get the execution onto Kaz. Grungle waits for the dark cover to dismiss itself, and we have an instant elimination of Cresselia, and then Ella Bloom. 3 are standing for UCSD, and it is just Ponko. Ponko with a 2-piece, opts to grab out the shorty, but turns around the Valorant timing!
But is there time? It is so close again, and this time when it's down to the wire is cut.
Attackers win.
Conestoga Condors steal Ascent away, steal UCSD's map pick 14-12. We knew this was going to be a close series when we picked it, when we wanted to stream it, and it is delivering on all accords right out the gate.
I mean, that was exciting. 14-12, I will... I mean, I expected like 10-13. Truthfully, I did not expect us to fully see overtime. Conestoga, I feel like they made great adjustments. I think the timeouts were perfectly timed. I think possibly as we move into Lotus, which is our second map, right? Yeah.
Yes.
We should see a little bit more adjustments coming out from UCSD. I think they might need to start taking advantage of pauses. I think last year you and I were very much so adamant that teams need to utilize all the resources at their disposal. Even if your coach isn't there, take a pause, discuss what's going wrong, give yourself the extra 60 seconds.
Well, we can take a look at the statistics to see who some of those big difference makers were as a result of this timeout, as a result of these team discussions. And leading up the leaderboard is all 4 duelists right here. And it seems like Grungle, instead of the Reyna for the side of UCSD, Navy takes the cake. But Kaz is the player that I want to highlight here. I mean, the fact that both players dropped 30 bombs is astounding. But I feel like, yes, Grungle, right? They were the one that got that really insane, clip it moment 4K. But I feel like Kaz and their impact was unrivaled. I mean, Tina had their moments as well. If you look back at that 4K with the operator, but otherwise, I mean, I'm excited to see these two players when we get over to Lotus.
I mean, Panko almost got an ace too, and then ended up getting executed. And MGD was like, well, sorry, and just has to find the final elimination after their teammate is passing away. Truthfully, it is going to come down to these duelist players, though. Across the board, they're the difference makers, and you and I, we've discussed this, I feel like, ad nauseum in the past, where it's like, you're initiator, yes, your job's to gather information, but your job is also to instigate your duelists. But in this instance, we don't need to rely on our initiator doing that, at least on this map for this lineup, because we're running these double duelist compositions. Now, when we transition to Lotus, I do foresee it being reliant more on our initiator to do that type of stuff, because I feel like Lotus is so heavily built around having your initiator util to get you information, as well as preventing the team from the defensive team from holding angles that they want when you're on offense, as well as your senties to get you information, just literally find out someone is flanking and then send your duelist, be like, go get them.
And that's something that's impressive to me as well, is look at the scoreboard of the difference between the Sentinels, right? MGD 20-19 versus Shroom 11-19. Don't get me wrong, the utility usage for Shroom was really, really clean. And I think the fact that MGD played as passive as they did on the defense is what allowed them to be so lethal, right? On that defensive half. And I think that's a huge factor, particularly on Lotus, when you look at the C site and the holds that we're going to likely see from a KJ or a Cypher if they go that route again. And you have to understand when to cut your losses, when to play retake with your team. And if MGD has it over Shroom, I think that dominance is going to continue. But I will say, Nerdy, we might not be getting double duelists on both ends. Some of these flex players may be going back to some initiator, some support players, which will be definitely a different flavor, to palate. But I hope it will fuel them into success. But everybody, you're going to have to stick around to see if that is the case. We've seen map 1. We see that Conestoga Condors are up 1-0, trying to rewrite history here in the first broadcast of the Aurora Series fall season. So stick around, because when we come back from this break, it's going to be Lotus.
In 10 years, I'm gonna be cruising the coast, drinking my pop. I'm gonna be kissing all the girls. I'm gonna be singing Aurora.
And welcome back to the Aurora series, our week 2 for Group D between Conestoga Condors and UCSD Navy, where map won in a very, very close overtime game. Conestoga Condors pulled ahead, sealing away UCSD's map pick. And we highlighted, some of the standout players being the duelists, but we're headed into Lotus here very, very shortly, Nerdy, where I, said we might be expecting a little bit different or a little bit more normalcy than what we saw over on Ascent. And you were like, oh man, so what are your thoughts on that?
Well, okay, so I have had like a consistent thought of normalcy when it comes to going on to at least like our initiators when it comes to running Lotus. Like I 100% expect to see a gecko, not on one side, but on both sides. And if I don't see a gecko, then I automatically know that things are going sideways as far as my expectations for these teams. But I expect a gecko. As far as duelists, I could foresee either a Reyna or a Raze. I know that a lot of teams like to post up a Raze over near Rebel and have them use that paint grenade to try and flush people out and then swing quickly to try and get the usage of the burst damage from that, plus the type of zoning it creates to kind of push people back out away from Rebel and away from Root. So that's two of the bases covered. Probably an Omen is also going to be our type of controller that we'll have coming into play here. Now, when it comes to Senties, I mean, MGD is a fabulous Sentinel, and I do think running with the oh my goodness, the Cypher is an advantageous option. But I do know that some of these teams also will opt instead for a Chamber on Lotus. So I could theoretically see that for a C-site hold that we have a Chamber instead of the Cypher. I just like Cypher because I feel like Cypher brings up so much counterplay when it comes to the B rotation for a flank from the enemy team when they're on attack, that Cypher is very powerful in that instance. Now, as far as the last one, I don't really know.
Ooh. Yeah, no, it is definitely hard to tell, but I could also see the possibility of MGD going back to that Killjoy. I'm not gonna lie to you. And I think this is just because, right, when you have a double duelist, I can understand you sacrificing the lockdown for a retake kind of trade-off because you have two duelists, so it's fine. You can still retake just as smoothly. But if you're switching off, like I said, Kaz might be going to, say, a breach, for example, then you still are going to need that extra assistance on a retake. So let's get our look at those agents and see if some of our predictions are going to come true or not. But I would love to see a Neon. I feel like that's kind of a sleeper on this map in particular, especially the breach combo. But we're getting spicy across the board. Yoru, Clove, Astro. Oh my! No, all right, come on,
so I'll take the Clove instead of the Omen, but running double controller, I find a little. Doggio, Danny, are we playing?
If it's a Viper, that's okay.
I still feel like I'm getting punked right now. Either way, all right. Double Senti initiator, double controller. Katina now is going to provide us flashes. I'm not trusting this. I'm anticipating like a last second hot swap from like half the team over here. Now look at the other side. Yes, the Gecko. I think the Geckos on both sides will be staying. Kaz with the Breach. I like Breach. Breach also is the bane of my existence when I'm on the receiving of it. Ella Bloom swapping over to the Astra with her recent changes. I'm excited to see how teams play around that. MGD, you mentioned it, dropping the Cypher in favor of that KJ, and then Panko on the Raze. I feel like Raze is so strong for an A-site hold for defense that you can't go wrong picking a Raze.
No, for sure, and I'm excited to see how that works, particularly alongside. I feel like the Gecko with their Mach, their Detain is really, really nice, and then also like with that Gravwell with the Astra, it's going to be really, really clean. And I was looking forward to seeing Ella Bloom on something other than an Omen pick, just because, like I said, they've played the Clove, now they're coming back to the Astra. It's definitely gonna be a bit spicier. Otherwise, though, I think we're really gonna have to just see how the comps work once we get into the game.
Yeah, I mean, ultimately, of course, if we don't see our Gecko as Spike, we're going to be, I will be confused, at least at the minimum. But the rest of that, we can kind of guess how things are going to shake out. I do think Gravwell in conjunction, I didn't even think about this, Gravwell in conjunction with Paint Shell could be devastating to a team. So I'm interested to see if we see that combo at least tried one time. I mean, lineups like that are a little bit difficult and typically very easily predicted. When you see the star on the ground, you're like, oh, okay, that's really far forward. It's not a smoke. That's a Gravwell. Let's not go that way.
Yeah.
And you wait for the star to be picked up. So we'll have to see what Conestoga plans to do if those two post up together. Now, we do have 3 stacked A site with our KJ util on C. This is pretty standard from our Sentinel if you have the ability to drop utility like this, and then holding out on B site. With our Gecko actually rotating to A as well. So we're predicting a hard dedicated push on A, and it looks like Danny's going to be the only one on that receiving end.
Yeah, so this is fairly clean of a start here. Danny, I feel like that's pretty standard, right? You keep up your lurk player over towards A, but they don't really have a toxic screen committed just yet, so I don't know if they're necessarily gonna fall for that here. And what it feels like we have set up from the side of Conestoga Condors instead is gonna be a really quick flank play off of this Killjoy utility getting tripped, right? You can hit the revolving door, and then you suddenly have a crunch point, but instead just waiting, ensuring there's no lurk player over towards pillars, and it's got its job done, right? It's kept these players off the site, and with this frag, I'm surprised at them falling through on the C exec.
Danny in a 2-on-1 manages to hold the angle just right that they get the one elimination, use the snake bite to prevent someone pushing the breach from pushing up onto them instead and backing off. Now Wingman gets in, goes to the standard plant spot, which means we can hold from Mound, but MGD holding here forward in B will take down Danny, so that means we have clearance to actually rotate all the way through spawn if we so choose to do so as our defensive squad of the Condors, but unfortunately, Ella Bloom, our controller, will get eliminated. And this is where I like Clove over any other controller, is if Doggio gets eliminated over here, we can still provide smokes all over Seaside.
Oh, that works out. MGD now navigating uncomfortable territory, a 1v3 clutch. Able to get a lot of chip damage off of these players, and this is suddenly feasible, but they understand they can't take this fight directly, so the jiggle and the Killjoy diff delivered with a frenzy of all weapons, and unlike how we kicked off a set, it's going to be UCSD with a pistol under their belt.
Hey, I support the frenzy play for a first round buy. I feel like it's underestimated. I do know the days where it used to be meta where you could buy a frenzy and light shields and then they upped the price, so rest in peace, the ultimate loadout of all time. But nonetheless, I still think the frenzy is underestimated by a lot of players, so it does bring me joy to see people using it. So we're looking at the buys for this round, slightly different, not as heavy a reliance on Bulldogs. We're going with Spectres and Stingers. We have, I think, a Marshall, and then I'm pretty sure 1 Bulldog this time. No, a Vandal. Yeah, 1 Bulldog, 1 Vandal. So we'll have to see if UCSD can actually use this to their advantage this time. Last time, they just all got eliminated in the Thrifty.
Mm-hmm. And that was also kind of scattering a little bit, but we'll get to see. Again, or with this heavy C-side thing, but they're trying to sell the Stark A-side fake off this toxic screen, and Ella Bloom I really would like to see a frag here. The off angle's good. The shots connect, but so is the tradability from their team. Danny, easy pickings here with the Spectre. Give things back to a 4-on-4, and I mentioned that I like to see, and we consistently see Outlaws on this map, but somehow able to get the paint shell off and avoid their demise here. So the easy rotate now, the 2 players ready to contest and hold down this A site. And the fact that the Breach and the Raze are here, I think those are the best 2 agents who are trying to hold this down, right? The fault line, the flood in, and just the disrespect still shown with the Wingman and the Tailwind. But Kaz is here. Kaz is a Deagle. They're still alive. Oh, for now.
For now, I think you just cursed Kaz to be eliminated by Tina. Cresselia having to just wait for the poison orb to go down. Tina posted up just around Spike. Cresselia does still have Dizzy as another ruse goes up from Clove. It does get taken down. We see, oh, the alarm bot went off though. It made contact perfectly with I think 1, if not both of them.
Just like that. We get to see another round for UCSD. We're finally seeing, I feel like, some normalcy in terms of the buy situation here. As long as Conestoga Condors wins this round out. That's where I mentioned this Outlaw and where things get dicey, right? Is because, look, there's 3 light shields on the side of Conestoga Condors here. And that's gonna be really rough if they come head-to-head with Tina.
Cresselia, don't lose Dizzy. Cresselia, don't lose Dizzy. Oh, little Eepy, but MGD gets eliminated. And Dizzy, we just managed to have the timing so that Dizzy does not end up getting anyone blinded. Oh, I think we might have a pause coming in. Okay, I thought Doggy had DC'd for a moment, but they didn't. Now Tina is in, walks through Bend, is going to be our escort service for Wingman to get onto site. Now posting up on top of boxes. Cresselia, who did not move from Waterfall, should be able to have Dizzy online and ready to go for a retake here, but Condors, they're down to just 3 players for retake, which is very different than what we were experiencing when we were having having retakes on Ascent.
And this is, again, like I said, it was normalcy, but 5v3 retake, the off angle, the weapon collected from Tina. It is all perfect here, but Ponko and Cash trying to get the job done. Is the snake bite enough damage ticked away? They have the thrash, they have the mosh. Ponko not being given many opportunities, many choices here. And that chance, that opportunity is now going to get stripped away by Grungle sticking around. They claim the round, and UCSD dominant out the gate.
All right, let's take a look at these buys that Conestoga is planning on going with, because they're in a eco round, and I think it's a heavy eco. Not surprised we're seeing Deagles. 1,300 should theoretically be enough for them to buy utility for next if they still have some in their back pockets from the previous round. I mean, Ponko did do very well, I believe, last round. I mean, found a few eliminations. Yes, it was unfortunate they didn't manage to win, but still, that's extra money in their pocket. Now we have this one way coming out from our Astra here onto C site because Conestoga has been perpetually trying to take the site. But we've stopped lurking up on A if you're UCSD because we expected this full commit. So now we're going to have to play for full player retake. We do have Thrash for UCSD here, but I'm interested, Conestoga. Why did we not lurk up A? Why did we stop? Why did we leave it fully open?
And I think it's just because they don't have the best weapons, right? They're gonna have to have numbers alive for that retake attempt. So they leave the anchor here in a safe position so they can get that information. And now that's gonna hopefully inform the retake efforts here, right? Plus they know that that thrash was online. So if a player's anchoring solo on site, then they're gonna get found out. They're gonna get eliminated here regardless. So I'm curious to see how they're gonna navigate this 5-on-5 retake. And I look at this, I do like the thoroughness. This Killjoy was aware that a reflink from Killjoy could occur, and it did not occur now, but fighting head on, Thrash recollected. I need to see the Gecko get on site so Wingman can get on the bomb here. I need to see Cresselia not fighting here with the rest of the team. But I mean, maybe I should just be quiet because the GCDs were hitting. Doggio, Tina's still alive, and we're seeing again that Outlaw hit the shots. Smokes are active, but it's planted for long, so it's just going to crumble one after another. While it gets to half, while it gets to close, UCSD still able to secure the round.
All right. That was a full save, and unfortunately, UCSD's economy is pretty healthy. I mean, we did find an elimination onto Danny, so it is going to force them to buy, and they, I think, have... I'm trying to... with the amount of utility you have to buy as Viper, especially when you're solo lurking, is a lot. So not surprised that they're a little bit more broke and had to sell, I think opted to sell some of the utility that they didn't want to purchase this round. But now looking at Condors, all but one can full buy. And if we don't manage to win this round, we once again have to go full eco. That is not what the Condors want to do. They need to figure out what's going wrong and fix it. I think ultimately it's coming down to playing too far forward with our utility, not backing off fast enough, and we're overstaying our welcome and trying to engage without our team and not using util on re-engagements.
All right. So with that, finally we get to see, I feel like, the players playing off the Killjoy utility here on C. You mentioned that it was kind of normal for them to play so far away from the utility, but I feel like there's usually at least somebody there that can then rotate off of it, like if they realize, okay, the utility isn't working, to keep the players at bay. But this round, we get to see that. We get to see the common A space being taken by this Breach Raze combo. So it's good for the start, for the setup of this round. And I need to see what happens in practice when the site gets taken. And here it comes, right? The tailwind in a nice Dizzy here. But still, the space gets taken. Wingman's out. And again, I go back to Conestoga Condors, and we talked about this passivity that they had over on Ascent, and it worked on B because their retakes were really clean. But the Seaside retakes have not been there just yet. But this time they have they have the Cosmic Divide. They have the 5 players, so there's a really good opportunity this time around.
There is, and technically we should anticipate that the defensive strategy is to play from Mound here if you're UCSD, but considering where the spike is planted, it's pretty standard. They do predict it, so that's where the Cosmic Divide comes down, just on the other side of spike. Now, we do see our Clove is going to Brave it, go in without any form of cooldowns, no blinds, gets punished immediately. We use the Not Dead Yet. It's not going to be enough That is every single player for UCSD falling. Condors managed to go through only losing their raise, and Astra did get dangerously low. I mean, a sliver of health up here on the UI, but nonetheless survived. We're able to buy up for our teammate. Honestly, though, with the economy the way it is, and Ponko being as well as prolific with weaponry as they are, I do think it would be advantageous for Ponko to not to buy a full rifle this round and instead opt for the deagle, opt for something lighter, play with a teammate, and pick up the gun of someone else on the side of UCSD.
Okay.
Because at this point, if they lose, they're in eco again.
Well, I mean, I agree with you to that degree, but all the ultimates for Conestoga Condors makes this, like that, you said that hero buy, I feel like an all-in, right? I expect to see, hopefully, the Showing Stopper off the Rolling Thunder for that exact reason. Now they have spike control, and now they're trying to use these weapons to convert, and it is working down to the last player. Shroom, a 1v5, they're going to deny that altogether, so it's flawless. The weapons are going to get raided, and as a result, it all comes together to give Conestoga Condors a second round on the board.
Look, Panko did not need to buy a Vandal that round. They got
You're not
two
wrong,
off.
technically.
They had two dropped in front of them freely off. Well, they did pay with their ultimate, but still, like I'm like, you have Showstopper. You're gonna pair it with Rolling Thunder to make sure they're concussed, can't move, can't run away. They're in your trap. Like, you could have just hung on to those credits. I totally get it though, because at the end of the day, I think buying with your squad in this instance, when you do plan to util an ult dump like that, is better for the economy as a whole. Remember, everyone, hanging onto money in your bank is good for you, but bad for the economy. No, I did not take any sort of business classes. I'm totally joking. With that in mind, I liked the play, but I'm stingy when it comes to credits. I would have been like, I got this. I'm going to kill him with the Showstopper. I'll get a free Vandal. I'm going to go skin shopping even.
And I mean, if it works, it works. And again, I feel like Conestoga Condors, we figured out that UCSD doesn't have a coach right now, and they're working to get them registered. So that's maybe a reason why we didn't see those timeouts over towards map 1. But I think the timeouts have been a huge difference, right? Just getting that second opinion from Rehante and allowing that, to be the difference maker here, to allow them to recover smoothly. And it definitely works out for them, because we've seen this kind of ebb and flow from both of these teams, right? Over on Ascent, it was Conestoga Condors up to a stop, or up to starting off strong. UCSD made the comeback, and then Conestoga Condors again ended at 6-6. And then Conestoga Condors went on a run that they struggled to close, and UCSD had that faux comeback. But we see a similar development here now, where UCSD is on again the attack, which is favored here heavily on Lotus. It could be more difficult when the sides swap.
Well, for now, I want to just see the Condors get a little bit more equal as far as the rounds go. We are at half of what UCSD has, and we called the timeout, so things should start going in their favor. Ponko uses that boombot. We do end up losing Doggio, so we have the fallback of our Viper, but our Viper utility is all dedicated towards A site, so that means we need to rotate, and we need to do it quickly.
That rotation to B site is where MGD is ready to swing off the turret. Contact, but it's red to a T by Tina. Ironically. Now it's no longer a 4v4, it's a 3v3. Thrash online as well for this retake. Ella Bloom has not much utility to contest or deny this plant as well. So they're just going to wait. Get the smoke off, get the thrash off, and the punishment should ensue. The read, the detain, does it miss? I think it did, yeah. And that spells disaster. Polka was alone on the flank. And just like that, each individual player for UCSD holds their own, finds their one, and UCSD pull ahead, finally shatter that. And that's, I think, just the timeout being taken from Conestoga Condors, favoring UCSD, giving them a chance to mull things over.
All right. Well, I mean, a timeout for one squad's a timeout for both. It's not like you're banned from speaking amongst each other. So, all right, if you're Conestoga right now, we just used our timeout not long ago. What adjustments do you think we're about to see? I think we're playing I actually like the double commit on the outswing towards Mound from the Condors here, going into lobby and opting to try and control the space first. You could see that they're making their presence known. There's the breach util, the flashpoint was used, as well as the concuss. That's huge. So now we're funneling UCSD towards A site, which I think is where Conestoga is more comfortable.
Just like that, early rounds fight, early rounds blood exchanged, and again, Bloom consistently plays in this right aggressive position, which I think is good for a Clove or is good for a duelist or a player that can get out of dodge, but an Astra can't, right? So they're just getting this one and done. And I mentioned how pivotal the late round impact of an Astra can be, right? With this Gravel, with this ability to, I feel like, anchor sight, and they aren't using her in that fashion, which is really devastating here. But I mean, it might not matter if Cresselia can anchor the site instead. The last player you expect, the Gecko with 3 kills on the round, and Tina, the finisher, here as well. Conestoga Condors, they still are keeping things close, even if UCSD seems to be in the forefront.
Now we're in eco for UCSD, something we've not had to. Excuse me, I'm having hiccups. Experience thus far for them on Lotus, and we're going with a little bit more of a default than we've seen from them. A slight KJ lurk towards B side to make sure that there isn't sort of flank coming out of that zone into lobby and towards C. I do think it's going to ultimately be a C execution, but I do believe UCSD should slow down a little bit on these attacks. Considering they are lacking in firepower, they need to make up for that with information. And there's some information right there. MGD is in zone of B site. You can predict it, but verifying is also better.
And you mentioned the speed here for UCSD. And I mean, I think they definitely slowed it down this round a little bit, right? They're just like making sure there's no aggressive plays from Conestoga Condors, then disengaging and heading, I think, to the final site they would like to follow through on, right? There's a minute left on the clock. My concern here is, though, with the C site, is it's really, really nice for this Killjoy lockdown that MGD has, and it's close to this site with. But finding a player there, Kaz wasn't able to support them, so this should be the follow-up, right? There's no reason for them not to, especially since that that orb gave them their own lockdown. The dash and the aftershock not going to be enough to get rid of it. As a result, you have to respect it. This is where I said I expect to see the counter lockdown, but Tina's aware of that. Tina knows this is a possibility, so they're the ones trying to play it forward with the rest of their team to counter it.
All posted up around water. MGD gets traded out by Grungle. We have 4 standing for UCSD, 2 standing for Conestoga. Cresselia finding Shroom. Grungle found Elephant. Now we're sending in Wingman. Go, Wings, go! Defend the President. Kaz will find Doggio. It is 2 standing for UCSD. It is just the Viper. And with that, Wingman is going to be the victor of this round to bring Condors within 1 of UCSD's score.
And I mean, I said it prior, right? When I saw Tina, when I saw the rest of the group scaling up, I'm like, this is great. They're going to try and counter the MGD lockdown. Like, this makes sense. But the overfixation on that allows Kaz, allows Cresselia to sneak in there through CT, and they get so much space on that site as a result, right? You just left the Wingman, because Danny was going for that B main lurk, and the rest of the team was fighting Waterfall. And they used that kit, that Gecko that's known for the retakes, to get that early advantage. I mean, if you knew you were going to press forward towards Waterfall, you needed to plan backside for those wallbangs. And the fact they planned for Mound instead and that Danny wasn't there is what made that fall apart. So Conestoga Condors, like you said, in striking distance here, still with that lockdown online, still with this aggressive flare. You know, sometimes it's towards A main, sometimes it's towards C Mound, and it's noted accordingly and, you know, dodged by UCSD this time, right? The Dizzy just for info over towards C, and now they kind of group up and look to head towards the weaker site, which they've identified here, hopefully, as B.
Honestly, I think the weaker site is A site, but if they want to go for the B site execution, I'm here for it. It's just, I get it. It's because of the weapons that they have and the utility that's currently in their pocket. But the longer they take, the more that the team's going to be aware that they're a B site.
And 5v5 still, again, something that we've seen now from UCSD is pushing these sites when the clock is dwindling away. It was a minute last round, now 45 seconds from the exec. The pop is good. And I mentioned that this wasn't easily defended. They've given up the site, which now aids them into the pit. The gravel, not going to stop the Wingman, and it's not going to stop the Blades. Tina, good for 2 here. Now again, it's a disadvantage retake situation where I'm the ready players, I'm trying to just look for impact and then cutting my losses, especially with MGD now 1v4, not having the utility to you know, I would say navigate a Viper's pit. Yeah, just play outside, wait for the decay, try and do economic damage, because UCSD is not out of the woods just yet. So wait for them to fight into you, because if you don't, Tina's going to get the Peekers advantage. It's going to get the 4K, and UCSD is going to get that safeguard of 6 rounds on the board.
here.
All right, so when we were looking at Ascent, we had a 6-6 tie. I think Conestoga can still do it. They had a rough start. We were 0-4. They brought it back. We're within 2. I mean, Ella Bloom is opting to buy another star as opposed to buying full shields, which also, again, I understand. Just means that we're not going to be playing for trades off Ella Bloom. Now, Ponko, going very far forward, is all the way at Rubble. Unfortunately, I don't know why we don't identify this very quickly, but the preferred site for UCSD is Seaside.
And I feel like you mentioned, right, that there's still hope for Conestoga Condor. I think it's more than hope, right? I feel like Lotus is one of those maps where it's so attack-sided that an 8-4 is normal. It's really easy to turn around. And with Conestoga Condor and these ultimates in their pocket, as long as they play this passivity that I kind of, I guess, was, like, criticizing them for, I think this is the kind of situation where it works out really well, right? You have 3 heavy retake ultimates, and you're being proactive in these clears, so you're not going to lose them. So what do you have? You have Thrash, you have Rolling Thunder, you have Lockdown. So they should be able to get 1 or 2 of these retakes, but the pacing, the hesitation to use them is where I'm a little questionable now. Oh, good spot. And that's now Doggio taking care of the Thrash, finishing late. And as a result, Grungle in the 1v2 has the mosh, but the wingman, and is the geometry good? Got to have the pop. Now the player will follow suit now. Thrash online, but they don't think they have time, and they are correct. The swing, the fight, the frag, and now UCSD comes back to claim the lead at the half.
Round before the switch. Time to spend this cash.
Tragedy. I really had hoped that the Condors would equalize this, but I will also say that it's not terrible to end around 5 with 4 even, because 4 gives you marginal room for error is what I like to call it. So you can still lose a couple rounds, you can even lose pistol, and you'll still be okay. There's breathing room. But anything less than 4, you're really walking a fine line for the remainder of the series.
Oh,
now, I'm still begging you, Condors, 5. You can do it, please. My Monopoly money is still out on the table at the start of every single map.
Mosh pit.
What I want to see is, again, confidence here. Yes, you don't have the weapons this go around in this last round. You bide up to those pockets were empty, were worn thin. But they still had all these ultimates, and they only used the Thrash. And I think that's because they overcooked, and instead of committing to the normal rotation, right, we had the Raze and the Breach follow through on a normal flank, right? I want you to just trust in your kill to return on B, right? Commit the 5 players to CT and Waterfall, because I feel like there's overcooking at this point. But look at this. That's not good, but the bait is good. And GD, I would be like, you know, stink guy if I was Cresselia there, but, you know, the bodyguard gets the job done, and now they get the trade off, they get the contact off of each other. But look at how low HP they are. And this is where I want to start seeing that lockdown, that utility, and it seems like, again, they're just waiting too long, right? Now you'll never be able to use that cosmic divide. And now, I mean, you'll never be able to use, I would say, the lockdown, because now look at this, you're using the clove to pressure forward. And you've read that this is the Rolling Thunder into Waterfall. So now they might be able to form some pressure. And this is getting some now flashbacks. Do you remember the last time this happened? It wasn't planted for Grungle, but Grungle is a clutch master, and they're going to try here again. 1v3, and they're able to do it again! McNuggets! This is what you want from a get-go, and this is where I was like, you know what? May not be a duelist, but they can still frag up a storm. Their mechanics look so robotic and clean, nerdy.
Yes, and we do mean that as a compliment, Grungle. Yeah, that was disgusting. I will also admit I had a moment of, like, gasping kind of scaredness when Doggio hit the not dead yet. I understand using it to push forward. You can get information, but the issue is that the further Doggio pushes forward into CT, the less value they're able to provide to their team on retake if they're dead. And, like, yes, it does rely on your ability to take a trade and then follow up and find the elimination. But most people just put their gun away and get the heck out of Dodge if they are low health and don't want to deal with the Clove a second time. And that's exactly what happened. So I think, unfortunately, using Not Dead Yet in that instance was not the best thing ever. You got info, but your post-death util wasn't what it could have been.
And Shroom, we saw the first round frenzy last half, and it strikes back. But speaking of striking back, look at this 3-person flank. The turret might make contact, but are you going to be prepared to handle 3 players, Kaz? Your team seems to be there to support. Cresselia trying to bait, but the timing isn't there. So all you can do is pinpoint 2, maybe 3 players. And now you try to fight and flip the map, but the timing isn't there. The rest of the team contesting head on, right? Grungle, good for 1. Shroom looking for their 1, and now that's their second on the round. And 3 to boot. UCSD taking both pistols here is not great for Conestoga Condors, and it's putting Icebox into a really realistic realm of possibility.
I mean, I'm an Icebox enjoyer. What are your thoughts though? Do you think that this is really in the bag for UCSD here? Do you think Conestoga has the opportunity? Honestly, taking your advice, I know that we are speaking and they will maybe only see this in VOD if they review this VOD in particular. To hear that, have more confidence, play with a little bit more forward aggression, take the space early and make them spend util to claim it back is always what I expect from teams, and I'm not seeing that as much from Conestoga, I feel like. And now that they're in the offensive phase, I'm worried about the util usage on this map, because yes, breach is one thing with the util, but UCSD is very patient now in comparison to what we saw on Ascent. And so I think that is what's causing the Condors to struggle, is the tempo change.
Well, that's a tempo change and a half, right? Fast pop. You asked for aggression, you got it, but unfortunately, the better weapons just read flood. The players are splintered from Conestoga Condors, and even the flank back from MGD is handled to a T. So you kind of pose that question to me. You're like, okay, when they're watching back this VOD, do you want to see more aggression and confidence out of them? I think I disagree with you to a degree about their space claiming, because you saw the breach and the Rays do it, right? Particularly like taking space in the early round, like whether that was over towards Mound or whether that was towards A link or A side. But the issue is that UCSD never fought into it. They were never piecing apart, the Danny lurks, and that was my problem. They never really did a traditional retake, in the sense that Kaz and Punka were always trying to flank, were always trying to have kind of an off the wall impact, and that's what didn't work for them. So I'm hoping the simplification, once they have weapons in hand now in the attack half, is going to work for them. Versus if they go for these kind of off the wall defaults and they allow ones to go the way of UCSD, that's when things are going to go south, which right now is making me a little bit nervous, because again, they have such an aggressive composition, but having you let your solo breach your wall and giving that opportunity, right, for the outlaw to find them means you no longer have any of that utility to set up your your Rays on an entry.
And I think breach is such a powerful initiator as well, like flashes, aftershock, the fault line for concussing. It is so diverse and powerful, but at the end of the day, gunfire and gun skills are so important, which is why you fall to an outlaw. Doggio is also going to take care of. There goes our controller. So now we're stuck with our Senti, one initiator, and our Rays, which means we need to not only figure out how to get spiked down as Gecko, we need to find an elimination without getting traded, and we need to support our Rays, and that's a lot to ask from one player.
Well, speaking of asks from one player, MGD on the lurk, able to catch off the Killjoy there. But look at Danny, the timing could be good. And it is. They can find that impact. Dink the finisher onto Cresselia. And MGD talked about asking one player to give and deliver the world. And they might be able to do it. One player left. They know where they were. Last. The sound cue, rotation, 15 seconds left. Danny hasn't canceled. Is the door closed? It's not. They've gone back. And they have a Vandal in hand. You've got to plant safe. Swarm grenade. Nicely placed. No Viper's pitch, or sorry, no Snake Bite to challenge. But if your Beanie is exposed, this round might just be over. Danny full HP, a Vandal in hand. What is this? You said you can't ask the world of these players, but that list just delivered.
Hey, I said it was a tough ask.
Yeah, so
MGD. MGD says it's okay. I'm Atlas and I can hold up the world.
Should I play some
Yep.
stars in this?
And so even though UCSD has double digits, this game is not over. They want you to keep your Monopoly money nerdy, right? 5 more rounds.
Oh my gosh.
My only concern, right, is we're celebrating seeing the praise there for Conestoga Condors and that ace from MGD, which is great. It's a great spotlight, great starring role, but that was a bonus round. We got to remember that. So the economy isn't good. UCSD has a bye.
But we can carry that confidence. The type of power that an ace like that from a team can carry is huge. And unfortunately, Tina, still has this operator. I think we should have predicted that. Someone else passed away to Tina earlier with the op. We should know a little bit better. But nonetheless, like, that type of energy can be huge. Now we have lockdown. If we can get to tree, if we want to commit to the A site push, no. Instead, we finally have a actual fake out towards A. We're staying over near Root and Rebel to try and wait and see if there's any flankers, because we don't have, you know, the Senti utility set up just yet back there
Drop in a smoke.
to tell us if anyone was on the flank. So now we've waited our time. The call has been made to make a full rotation. We've got one person, it's Kaz, with all of this util available. It's going to be that fault line. I think we still have some point flashes as well to be lurking here inside of B site, possibly where the Danny has basically been here every round thus far in this half.
And I mean, I feel like Danny's one that's definitely stepped up already. Yes, they didn't lose, you know, or they didn't win out the ace against MGD, but who hasn't, right?
30 seconds left.
And at this point, 4v5 here. You got into the site, but unfortunately not able to punish off of your utility there. 'Cause at this point, here comes the Thrash. Here comes some confidence from Conestoga Condors, right? Trying to push the issue. Push the control into CT, and I like this. Because now they can maybe set up a lockdown a little bit deeper, not even allow for a retake, but now they feel like they're overstaying their welcome. Kaz using the bait that's been blessed by the light Mellow Blue. For the finisher, the trade! Ever so slightly not in their favor, and again, it comes down to MJD, and this time, they cannot get the job done for their squad. Doggio, the Clove, full HP, not even breaking a sweat, full shield as well. And UCSD might just be starting to put Lotus to sleep.
Condors, I know it's getting a little bit late in the evening. I need you to drink some caffeine. It's not time to say goodnight on Lotus. The only
Not at
thing
9:30
UCSD... It's only 7:30 p.m. my time.
Well, for them, it's 9:30.
I know. It's
MST
getting
doesn't
close to
exist,
evening
nerdy. We
time.
discussed this.
I know. Mountain stupid time is mountain stupid time. But okay, so I'm looking at Clove. We've got the not dead yet coming in right now for Doggio. That for UCSD. So that can mean that we get an elimination. If it's Clove, they're coming right back. For the Condors, we have this lockdown. We can use it to fake out a squad and make them think we're going to one site, or we could just guarantee a site take. And I think we're heavy committing towards C. We don't have anyone lurking near the other sites, which we've had in the past. Here comes in that Rolling Thunder. Shroom's trying to buy some time, but I think it's not going to be enough. They do find Kaz, though, which is huge. That's a bunch of util taken out of the hands for Condors.
Oh. There's the lockdown for MGD that could get utilized here as well. And I want to see no hesitation at using it, right? This is a 3v4. You lose UCSDs on match point. So the fact that they're still holding on to it here is scary. Finally, it's utilized, but at that point, I would have said this round is done and dusted, right? MGD on par with a nice headshot. And Tina getting out of dodge. There's plenty of time to still navigate this. They have an operator in hand. Cresselia just cannot overpeak. They're kind of repeating that in a quest for that better weapon upgrade. And just the confidence and the swing, you've got to be kidding me. UCSD and Tina are going to pull them on to 12 here. Whew.
Match point.
All right.
They're desperate.
I'm gonna ask this, and you can tell me I'm crazy, but sometimes I feel like if the enemy team has an op, you gotta have someone who's willing to go toe-to-toe with them. I'm not saying you have to have an op, because I've seen a Marshall or an Outlaw best an op plenty of times. Do you think Kaz can do it?
Do I think Kaz can do it? I don't think on the breach I would like. Well, I mean, we don't have to worry about it because it's on the other side of the map. We'll put it that way. I think I could see it, yes. But the speed that we've seen the opping as well from Tina is just unrivaled at the moment. When we look at, like, you know, the impact they had last map and now here as the primary duelist on Lotus. And I feel like we haven't even stated the fact that, right, they're a jet on Lotus as well with this success, right? Like, that isn't the normal agent pick, right? You see, you know, the Rays, you see the Neon over that more than anything. So, this is the first time, though, we've seen a more directive A hit from Conestoga Condors. And I like that UCSD is respecting it because they have all these retake ultimates, right? You have the lockdown, you have the thrash, you even have the not dead yet, so you can send just your Clove in for information.
Yeah, your Clove can play Mega Team Bait to go get that intel. I'm looking right now where the Condors are posting up for post plant. We do see that KJ's lurking in through B site and is likely to get punished when they go up towards CT. No, the timing is perfect. People are actually backing up over towards A, so this flank from MGD could be huge. That's not 1, that's 2, that's 3. Are we gonna get a 4th? We get the 4th, can we get the 5th and the 6th? We have 1 sliver of health. We're running away from the Plague Storm, but nonetheless, MGD, that was massive!
And the Wingman sticking, no one's near it. Not like this, you're kidding me. Wingman's been destroyed, caused enough havoc here that Grung can just bet on
One enemy
just
remaining.
Tina. And just like that, the Ninja Fuse, the 13-5 victory from UCSD. And they are gonna send us to a map 3 once again between these two teams. The rivalry will continue, and we will see Icebox.
Oh, wow. Okay. Sometimes some teams just have the maps that's like, this matchup ain't for us, and I think the Condors just need to shake it off, say GG go next, and go really hard on Icebox.
And I think that they will. You know why? Because I think we're going to see maybe the happy medium between these compositions we saw on Lotus and Ascent. Because I think that equals Icebox, right? You think of the Gecko, you think of the Jet, you think of the Reyna. And I think we're going to definitely get, I think, the best of both of these teams putting their foot forward. Because if we look at the statistics, this felt like night and day compared to Ascent, right? We saw both teams firing on all cylinders. And this time, MGD with that ace was trying so hard to edge their team closer and closer to that comeback. I mean, they even put up, almost the same stats as Tina did themselves, but ultimately just the 7 first bloods, the things that Tina was able to get away with on both halves is what I think led to the downfall of Conestoga Condors on their map pick.
Yeah, we'll have to see though. I mean, the Condors did take away UCSD's map pick, so now that we're going over to Icebox, it's definitely anybody's game. I'm excited to see what they bring to the table, but I think we can give everyone just a quick breather to figure out what went wrong, what they need to change up as we move into Icebox. Some players love it, some players hate it. I'm personally in the boat of being the player that really enjoys Icebox, but hopefully our viewership also enjoys it because that's where we're going to end our night. But for now, we can go grab a quick drink of water, go to the bathroom. I myself am going to get some ice for my ice water because it's getting toasty in here, and this is going to be an exciting map for sure. So don't go anywhere. We'll be back here in just a minute.
And welcome back to the last map of our Week 2 coverage for Group D of the Aurora Series fall season. It's still Zobi and Nerdy Bird to bring you through the action of this banger that I knew was going to deliver when I looked at these two teams and was like, wow, Titans of Aurora Series, they've been here since the beginning of time, and they are definitely delivering on that name and this performance, Nerdy Bird.
I agree. I just feel like Lotus was a little bit lackluster.
Yeah.
We had some amazing moments, especially MGD. That's a highlight reel moment for sure. Nonetheless, I feel like going into Icebox, you mentioned it, it's the great equalizer. This is where we're going to see the best parts of both squads based off of the compositions that we've managed to actually see coming in from Ascent as well as Lotus. But with that in mind, what type of composition do you think we'll be seeing when we go into Icebox, at least from one of the squads?
I'm not too certain, right? Because this is UCSD's first week, and yes, I could have looked at the compositions from ways and ways away from last season. Same with Conestoga; they haven't played Icebox yet, but I feel like we're entering a new meta for Icebox where it's not really anymore that Sage KJ go-to combination. We're seeing the double duelist more, like the Jet and the Reyna combo, which I think is what I'm expecting and hoping for both of these teams. Because then we'll get back to kind of that Ascent-esque look. But then my concern is that we saw some really good Geckos on Lotus as well, and Gecko's another really strong pick on Lotus. So I feel like both these teams are going to be fighting between, okay, are we going to have them on the Reyna or the Gecko, right? Particularly when I look at Grungle, right? They were really, really good on the Jet, and then they were really, really good on the Gecko as well. Some really insane clutches there that I think were the final nails in the coffin for preventing a turnaround from the side of Conestoga Condors and ending things before it got to Icebox. So I don't really have an answer for you there, but I think I'd be happy with either variation.
I'm on the same boat, but of course I'm biased heavily in favor of having a Gecko or having a more of a lurky playing Sentinel. I do like having the double duelist play. I think the ability to take a lot of initiation utility that you have, the space that you can claim, it's just once it feels like a type of composition that once you hit the gas, you really need to try hard not to hit the brakes, and you need to do things at the right times, which is why we see UCSD waiting for the last 45 seconds on Ascent to make an execution onto sites. But when it comes to going into Icebox, where I feel like there is such a long pathway between the sites, and there's so much cover that exists, I'm interested to see if we see that same type of patience coming from UCSD, because we also saw that reflected in Lotus, I think even heavier than we saw on Ascent, because with Ascent, it's two objectives. You post up by one, we lurk, we walk back, we go to the other one. That was UCSD's modus operandi on that one. However,
Mhm.
when we went to Lotus, it was like, it's C site all day long. One of us can lurk near A, maybe a little bit near B if we're feeling spicy, but we go C site. And that was how it was. I'm wondering if we're going to have a similar experience with they pick one site and they love it, and that is how they play, or if we're going to have a little bit more back and forth, some dichotomy presenting itself. Also, I want to know if the Condors have very strong retake, I feel like, for A site in this instance, as opposed to B site, because I feel like B site retake can be a struggle bus, but with the right type of team comp is pretty simple for most squads. I'm interested to see how A site retake works out for both these teams.
And I think when we look at the agent comps, they're literally going for mirrors here, which is scary to me. Because now I've seen Kaz on a Reyna, on a Breach, and on a Viper, right? Some of, I feel like, the hardest, I feel like, kits to truly propel into, I feel like, a successful, like, KDA, a successful impact for your team. And they're just diving in, round after round, or I should say map after map. And you mentioned, right, retake ability. When I look at these comps, I don't see a heavy retake other than maybe Killjoy Lockdown and that Gecko and the Wingman. But I really see the ability, right, to anchor some of these sites. You mentioned B and the difficulty of the retake. I expect to see these Vipers and these KJs do really, really well at anchoring these sites. Like you can set up the one way over towards B main, and that's what I need to see. And we saw, Danny put up a really, really good performance on the Viper over on Lotus. You talked about those lurk plays in particular. I think they're only going to be emboldened here on Icebox, which is a scary prospect for Conestoga Condors, because that only means they have more to keep track of.
I mean, I agree with you in some regards to what you're saying, but the one thing I will say that I disagree with is I feel like the initiation util for retake onto B site. Yes, KJ Viper being there is one thing, but I think KJ might lurk more towards mid to get a little bit more information, at least post pistol rounds. Like we already have KJ's turret over here, but we've got the information gathering from Sova, but then in conjunction with maybe your
What?
Gecko. But never mind, Ella Bloom walks and gets an insta head tap, as does Ponko. Danny is now the lone player standing over here. We do see Tina is going to be eliminated by Kaz. Grungle gets a long range shot onto Ella Bloom and finds that elimination. Now, Priscilla is dealing with two swinging into kitchen. They decide to give 1v1s. That is a death sentence when you're swinging into an area where you don't know people are at. Let's try not to give 1v1s, and the Conestoga Condors doing just that because Priscilla had someone else walk up with them near the end there.
What did we ask for the entire time on Lotus that they had kind of I guess surges over on Ascent? It was confidence, and I feel like the most confident you can get is a mid play on pistol. And you mentioned, right, what it was, it knowing when to put gas on the brakes and not taking it off. Like that is, I feel like, the definition of getting that started, right? Like if they suddenly slow down and go to a default when they have these weapons, I'm gonna be like appalled. I'll be like aghast, like what? But it looks like they might just be going for another aggressive play over towards B main. The difference here is last round they kind of circumvented Tina until they were in an advantageous fight. Now they're gonna be challenging her directly here, tucked in a corner with a classic. Let's ensure they clear it out.
We've seen a couple of tight angles like this. Not what we. Okay. Whew.
They had to like second guess themselves. They're like, wait.
Shields. Okay,
Oh.
Danny through the smoke. Unfortunately, went into it, got spotted, eliminated by Ella Bloom. Kaz follows up, taking out Grungle. Conestoga has the spike down. It is up to a retake between Shroom and Doggio, our Sentinel and Initiator players with classics in hand. We do have 2 shock darts as well as our Owl Drone available for Doggio, but I don't know if it's really worth spending those. Instead, going guns a-blazing as much as possible. Maybe get a pick, maybe get half the spike, but ultimately I think we're playing just to try and find an elimination for these two.
And maybe I would be okay with them using the shock darts just because you mentioned, right, shields having to be repurchased, so that could be huge. Also, look at how low Kaz is. Like, they could have finished Kaz off, but here it is, just both dying to a spike. They can ensure that that's robbed away. But speaking of robbed away, I think Ella Bloom might only had a deagle though, so it's okay. But still losing that weapon, losing that flawless here for Conestoga Condors. I'm only gonna burn ever so slightly. Maybe Ella Bloom. I would be okay, honestly, if they bought up a weapon here. I'm not gonna lie to you, because it'd be a nice counterplay if they are able to, upset the momentum from UCSD right out the gate. Because look at over on Lotus, what was it? 4-0 before they got around on the board. So if they keep the lead, it'd be huge.
I truthfully, yeah, like I mentioned earlier, I'm frugal, I'm stingy. I agree with you. I'm encouraging a buy, but they've opted to go with the Ghost instead, and we're throwing a Swarm Grenade with the lineup to get rid of that KJ turret. Shroom is aware that now mid is open. I've seen a lot of KJ players in the past post up there with utility, at least the turret, so they have that information, but now it's like, do I go look or do I not go look? And Shroom fell into the trap. They went and looked. Their attention's pulled mid. Everyone's lurking up through B main, and it is Danny taking the brute force of this initiation coming from the Conestoga Condors.
And this is something that's been really, really interesting, right, Tina? You typically see the Jet more anchored or tied to the A site and aggression there, and once in a while switching over to B, but this has been their home, their mainstay, consistently poking and prodding over towards B main. And this time, with this hard stop cancellation of noise, they're trying to draw the rotations back over to A. And it has worked to a degree, right? That Sova player in particular. But I mean, no contact has been made. There was no visibility of crossing coming out from the KJ as well. So now Tina holds the angle. And we talked about Alibu wanting to buy, but if they have a classic in hand there, or sorry, a Ghost in hand, they're good to go. And now they've kind of tucked into this corner with their teammate, not overextending, which I love. They want to get the weapon upgrade in due time, but Danny is good for the double. And now 3v4, things are getting dicey. Okay, Wingman on the bomb here, not getting destroyed. Grongo, the Wingman's got it to half, but the pulling and the 4K from Pongo. They didn't need the extra buy. They needed the extra weapon.
Absolutely, that was well executed coming out from the Condors. Let's see if they can bring their score up to 4 and actually have a commanding lead like UCSD did earlier. I do still anticipate UCSD being able to equalize, but they need to make an adjustment. You mentioned how we're having these different protocols than what we normally see. The Jet playing more towards B side than A side on the defense, which I don't think swapping an agent like that is the end all be all, but I think the attention focus that's easily getting pulled by UCSD from some of the small tricks that the Condors are pulling is what needs to be rectified, and maybe playing for forcing a little bit more util and then disengaging. Danny's doing a great job of anchoring here on B, but Condors have made it very obvious they love this B site. I think we full commit to the B and we play for retake on C. Well, on A site, my B.
I like the immediate rotation from this entire squad, because that was close, right? If you look at the Wingman and how they were able to get through. But this time, they're trying to play for spike denial. And I don't know about this plant position. Wingman's got a little astray here. Might be a bit harder to defend, which is why these players are now starting to edge up from Conestoga Condors, trying to remedy the issues, especially with the position of this Poison Cloud. I feel like it's going to harm them more than anything. And now it's been communicated that, okay, this spike plant's a little south here, but it is kind of planted for mid, kind of planted for Kaz. So this is, I guess, the silver lining, or maybe the intention all along, right? Draw the attention in multiple directions, allow you to get these players to still have an impact. And Thrash invested on an eco, huge win for UCSD, but the reflank should be good. Time is dwindling. Kaz, get out of dodge. You don't need to lose that rifle, but Danny going for the stick to force him to overstay their welcome. Unfortunately, though, wow. The stare down. I can't kill you. You're my sister, even if you are from the other planet.
I'm shocked we had 4 players go down to the spike. But I think if you're the Condors, it was worth it to... I mean, they forced out a bunch of utility. Everyone is... And also, I think if you're UCSD and you're down that heavily, pulling the Condors back and making them think that you have a sliver of a chance of getting this spike diffused was enough to pull the attention of the Condors, make them commit to the self-implosion via spike at the end of the round. You mentioned it earlier, rebuying shields, rebuying guns. Just chipping away at the eco if you're UCSD is probably what's necessary at this point.
For sure. So far, so good here from the side of the Condors again, right? I talked about the importance of anchoring this B site, finding these frags, denying the plants, and I don't think Conestoga Condors been able to do that at once, right? And now I finally mentioned Tina, right? And the, I guess, proclivity of a Jet to be drawn to the A site. They were there that round. Now you're trying to retake with less numbers. With the Viper's pit up. Grungle, if they find a frag here, they could get the Thrash online. But Shroom trying to take the initiative, and they knock them down like dominoes with the last few bullets left in their rifle, in that magazine. And now this is feasible. Navigating it quite well, but they are full on protection mode. for this Viper. Both players ahead.
Last
And there it
player
is. You know, the
standing.
Viper's pit drops. The 1v3 with only an operator in hand, and the eye in the sky has a blind spot. Conestoga Condors keep things clean now. 5-0 so far in Icebox.
This is so interesting because the dominating performance we saw on Lotus, and then the very back and forth that we experienced on Ascent, I anticipated, just like you did, this would be a lot closer. Yes, of course, I was claiming and touting that, oh, these are going to go the distance. We're going to hit double digits from both teams every map. I was completely and utterly wrong on map 2. So I kind of did away with that here on map 3, but I did expect there to be a little bit more contention, at least early on, between these two teams, some more push and pull, but UCSD is really struggling to get their footing. And now Danny has opted to call this timeout. The team is going to take this 30 seconds to talk, and what do you think they're talking about right now, Zobi?
Whew, I mean, like you said, first time out of the series, right? So I think partially this is just a breather. Probably just saying, all right, this is the first time we haven't really been able to stage a comeback right now. I also think it's addressing that issue that I mentioned over towards the B site, is they haven't been able to stop them from gaining that B main space, right? I think, you know, Tina's been confident in taking those initial first fights, but then they disengage way too quickly. And the issue there is not the disengagement, because I like that. Don't overstay your welcome, don't get first blooded. But it's that Danny or Shroom then, like your Sentinel, your Pseudo Sentinel, aren't picking up that space, right? Aren't replacing it with, oh, put the one way up. Oh, put a snake bite down. And I think that's the kind of delay utility that I like to see, because it sets you up for success. This is the change they're making now, is the Jet and the Gecko together, which I think is a variation I like to a degree. Because what you need to see then from this duo is them to fight aggressive here. The Gecko, the Dizzy needs to set up the swing from Tina, and unfortunately it doesn't do that. Yes, you've gotten the chip damage off, but that Owl Drone just cancels out that entire plan. So now I want to see them fully disengage, because Grunkle, you have that, you know, that Thrash, you're important here.
I think Grungle recognizes that and is going to opt to play a little bit safer this round. You can see not rounding with Dizzy, throwing it up, letting Tina take the aggression on the swing. Tina got a trade. Grungle follows up after the intel, finds one. Ponko will unfortunately find Grungle, so there goes our Thrash. UCSD is down to 2, but I mean, Ella Bloom has a sliver of health at this moment. We do have Bladestorm online, so we do have the opportunity for our Jet to play more as a point for this retake once we get Dizzy available. The UCSD is really going to struggle for this retake here.
Here we go. So far, 2v3. Again, UCSD on the back foot. Shock Dart, so much utility to work with. Only silver lining would be Danny and this Wrath lining up, but then you got the Blades and you got Ponko in the back lines, who was playing safe because they understood that they were the player with full HP, full shield there. So 6-0, Conestoga Condors taking this momentum and running right now. I'm going to say it again, Nerdy, they haven't taken their foot off the gas.
And I don't think there's a need to take it off the gas in this moment. They're doing so well. The adjustments that UCSD is attempting to make, which I don't think are enough, honestly. The plays haven't changed, the setup, the locations where they're at. Except for now, as I'm speaking, we have 3 players committing to the B-site hold as opposed to just one, just Danny, and waiting for late rotations and swings coming from our Jet. I like this adjustment. The Condors had no reason to take the foot off the gas. Now we have our Jet playing point, and funny enough, I think this is a good prediction. Ooh, almost getting hit with those blades as we walk through the smokes. A lurk up from our KJ through A site just to see if anyone was there. So I think UCSD fully evacuating and being towards B site is going to open up this opportunity for our KJ to get some insane third-party kill, basically, so to speak here. But they've commented to their team, hey, everyone's gone from B site. I think UCSD should have predicted that during that off time where they took that time out, Condors would also use that as an opportunity to adjust their playstyle. Why not commit to the A site finally?
Yeah, I mean, I heard recently, you know, when I was doing some press interviews for VCT, that the coaching staff sometimes believes, you know, A site is just a matter of who wins their gun duels, who's the better team. And if Conestoga Condors, you're up 6-0 right now, then yeah, A-side is as basic as it gets. But for once, the post plan is starting to fall apart, it's starting to splinter because these crossfires aren't being established. But what is being established is Kaz. And at this point, I want to see the trigger discipline. I want to see you get that lockdown before you get the kills, please?
Standing.
Hello?
Oh.
Now Caselli is in a 1v3 and they can't do anything about it. UCSD finally getting on the board, denying Conestoga Condors a round advantage so far before the half is up. And better late than never. But I'm just... You could probably hear the casting. My jaw was just wide open.
Yeah, I was flabbergasted myself in that moment. I was questioning, like, okay, I get it. Decision making under pressure, and the longer you've been under pressure, the harder it is to make the decisions that you would typically do. So I will, in that moment, I would anticipate that the lockdown would have been the first thing taken care of. But we are multiple hours into this. They've been playing so many rounds.
Yes. For external viewers.
Mistakes are bound to be made. But nonetheless, I'm still gonna be shook when they occur. Like that.
And we talked about this for the B site remedy. We needed to see them prevent them from getting the plant, getting out on the B site. And I liked the operator addition here to do just that. But unfortunately, they're still going to be unleashed. The Thrash, a great counter to that. And my only thing here is look at how deep this toxic screen is. So now it gives the operator a little pocket to peek out of yellow. So now the rest of the team scaling up alongside it here while it holds down that sight line. And it's giving them a sense of comfortability here. Spike has been recovered. They're just holding their own, waiting now, punishing the overpeaks, punishing the overaggression. And I like how quickly Conestoga Condors is able now to, I guess, adjust to the pacing here. I want to see them go A. Rotate for once. Look at where your KJ is. They can handle the rotations.
Yeah. I mean, take advantage of the literal legwork your KJ has had to do every round.
Or you just wait for the KJ to finish the job. Hold your grounds. Don't even plant. 30 seconds, that's a lot of pressure to put on them, but it's MGD. We've seen them under pressure.
Yeah,
what do? They aced on Lotus. And they might not even need it. A 1v4 now. It would have to be the ace clutch for Doggio. And while 2 will fall, Ponko is good for the finisher. And Conestoga Condors now guaranteed lead at the half.
I love MGD being like, hey, I got here. No, seriously, you said rotate A site. MGD has cleared A site so many times. They've put in so much legwork for their team to just be like, nah, it's B. We're B. But I think it's a smart call to stay on the B site, waiting for the full rotation to come down from MGD. So you have two angles of pressure to create. But also on top of that, we saw the poor execution of the post-plant scenario play out on A site. What looked like a easy situation for the Condors to be victorious, and because of how successful they've been on B site, crumbled in their hands on C site. It was basic mistakes that were being made, and I think you said mentioning that it comes down to gun skill. That, and I just think that the comfortability that they have on B site is akin to the comfortability that we saw with their B site retake on Ascent. They're really good on that site, and right now UCSD is not adjusting for it.
And I'm sorry, but are you seeing who took this time out? It's the team that's up 7-1 right now. So I'm trying to pinpoint, okay, what did UCSD do that set off the coach's alarm bells? Or what is so important that they think that the next half is going to be a complete pacing shift, a complete success story difference than what we're seeing right now? Like, that's insane to me, because maybe they're just talking about UCSD, right? And the fact that this is an eco round, so they can, shut down this creative pot play that's going to build out a mid, and that could be successful. But look, they're going to fight it maybe directly head on.
I think, honestly, the timeout might have been to address some minor mistakes that are being made by the Condors in this situation, to not let the confidence that they've built up also be their own undoing. To ground them a bit more. Like, they're being a little bit more patient here with this challenge into mid. Even though they're going into deagles, they're going into probably light shield buys. They're still aware of it, still respecting UCSD, and that's exactly what they should be doing. I think the minor mistakes that they made a couple rounds ago, especially on the A execution, the coach recognized, I may need to call a timeout here. And I think MGD overstaying welcomes here inside of A site without pulling util, without pulling attention, could have also been a point of contingency, a point of, like, an actual problem being occurring. So now you see pulls attention, quickly rotating to team. But it's going to get caught in a gank here in the mid, possibly. No, never mind. The Viper didn't swing the angle. That's the Valorant timing at its finest, if I've ever seen it.
And Doggio now in a position that's, I would say, familiar now for the rest of the squad for UCSD at this point, right? Disadvantaged retake, a 3v4, Viper's Pit is up. you do have the Hunter's Fury to maybe corral them out of this. Look at how low HP some of these players are. Finish them off here. But I mentioned how concrete Conestoga Condors is in this Viper's Pit, right? All these players playing ahead of Kaz, but they fall. Kaz has to pick up the slack here, playing now first line of defense. Shroom, we have so much utility you're not using either. No turret in the smoke, no nothing. So you're just going to take the fight head on, and Kaz is going to win that with the Deagle. Or sorry, with being up against the Deagle. So 1, 2, 8 here now in UCSD. Yes, you have some ults charging up. Yes, that was an eco round, but what score do you think is recoverable on Icebox, Nerdy Bird?
I mean, honestly, I still always push for the 4. The force, like having a score of 4 is very important. I don't care how good you are on the opposite side in comparison to like your first half. Like if you're UCSD and your offense is just way better than your defensive execution, you still need to give respect to the other team that they can still win a few of those rounds. So 1 round to hang on to is not enough. You need the 4. You need the opportunity to lose eco and gain it back. That's why I say 4 rounds is the sweet spot, and anything less than that is really painful to deal with. But Tina posts up forward, has to use Tailwind to get out, but finds the execution onto that jet early, so there's no Blade Storm. Now, Wingman goes up and gets taken out. Grungle gonna hit Thrash, but cannot find everyone in that back corner. Knows they're there, but unfortunately couldn't get Thrash into that corner. Can't pick them up either. But Tina is going to find another elimination on the Kaz with the information gathered off this Hunter's Fury.
This is the first time we finally see a counter come out from UCSD. They finally shut down this plant on the B site. And it feels like it is just inevitable for it to go finishing in the side. The fashion of UCSD. Castelia not going to go down without a fight. Even challenging and boldly the operator directly. They almost got the job done here as well. So now, gotta see some cleanups. Isolate these 1v1s. Double swing, please, if you're UCSD, because if you don't, there's a classic and almost a clutch. If they got Grungle there, I would have been appalled, but the concern now grows. UCSD, right? That's their first round in a while. There's no loser's bonus. There's no winner's bonus. So now, the buy isn't gonna be the greatest. Look, Danny can't even get a full rifle and a shield.
And Danny did exactly what I was thinking in my head. Buy a Bulldog. But perhaps we're gonna, just buy the Bulldog. I think that's a good way to go. It does enough power, but you need to make sure that you're prepared for the 3-round upwards burst. Compensate for it. You do have to have enough time to get 2 shots in. We have Shroom posting a lot more util forward into mid than we had previously, and somehow Matt manages to fully predict that there's going to be a mid push coming out from UCSD in this situation.
You can predict it, but can you handle it, right? We saw the success on that pistol, and they're trying to replicate it now that the B main pressure no longer works. But Danny finding that frag here is huge, and now they haven't been able to handle Tina B main. So Dagia can go for the pinch play, the distraction. This is a 2v3, though, with the operator online that makes this difficult. You have to win out these fights, and unfortunately, Dagia 30 HP. And the reflink, the trust in MGD. Tina, at this point, do you save the operator for the last round, or how do you navigate this? You do have both Cloudburst online, but now they know they have the operator. They know where you're coming from, and look at this little high-low. You can't off both them, right? Oh!
Yeah. We saw them use that strat against... it might have been Tina last time as well on Ascent, the double high-low swing out on A site. You can't kill both, and one of them's going to kill you. You got a 50-50 shot of taking out one of them, but you don't have a shot at taking out both.
I mean, if it was a Cloud, that would have been a nice little clip there. But I think even then, the timing and MGD, we know they have the clutch factor. They wouldn't have been able to swing. And let's talk about the fact that MGD right now is 4-4. This is not a dig at them in any way. It's the fact that they haven't had to do their job, right? They're consistently in a position to punish, right? Like, you'd look at the end of the rounds, and it's just the rest of the team closes it up before they even have to. And that is just showing, I feel like, how successful Conestoga Condors has been this map. I mean, it's the last round closeout. Look at the desperation from UCSD, right? The blades thrown into the main for an attempt to again close out this B execute that's been so clean from Conestoga Condors. And they have 4 ultimates, right? So, I mean, yes, you put the Viper Spit down, but I could just see a lockdown or a Hunter's Fury here to force them out of it. Or you just plant the spike and ignore it.
Yeah.
Okay, it's just a wingman. We're good.
You should run.
All right, there's the attacker's lockdown. Shroom's going to be eliminated. That does mean MGD has made it in a lot faster than we've seen from them in the past, but nonetheless, Nicely done. And we're using that to flush everybody out. That's unfortunate because that means our Viper's pit's going away. Oh, and Kaz from the mid finds Danny. We hit the Blade Storm as well. Tonka will find Doggio. We've got an encounter happening in mid Grungle. It's going to go in quickly. Unfortunately, goes down to Kaz. I mean, a Vandal, very powerful in comparison.
Switching sides.
And 10-2 half. I think it was the last thing we expected. And I mean, you called the second map lackluster because it was a 13-5. Do you think that's just because it wasn't a close game, or because we expect UCSD to be the, I guess, victor of the series, considering their history? You know, the last 2 times they faced up against Conestoga Condors, they've been the victors.
No, it's not so much. I don't think it's because I expected UCSD to, you know, be victorious. Like I said, I don't have a bias towards any of these teams. I am a firm believer that you can always get better, and that complacency is your worst enemy. So I don't want to become complacent as a caster either.
Of course.
I think what makes it lackluster is the lack of utilizing our time, lack of utilizing the information we've gathered, the habit, the conditioning that players have given you already to create new plans, to make minor adjustments on the fly. I like the spice.
This is spice, number one. Replicating the success that's been found. And I think that's why, for me, even though this is a 10-2 half, right? I don't think this has been, I guess, a lackluster analysis from an analysis perspective. Because UCSD was consistently making changes to try and counter that main take from Conestoga Condors. And they found it once, but then they weren't able to replicate it. But what is this? Why do you recall the turret there? Now
the timing.
Panko has snuck in, yeah. Shroom, though, we know it. This is you fear the frenzy. Oh, this time though, it's not gonna get the job done. And I'm sorry, but you lose this pistol, UCSD, and I'm gonna say you lose the map. So you need to stop going for these 1-for-1 trades, because now it's a 2v2. UCSD, it's slipping, smokes out, and there's no wingman for Ella Bloom. Silver lining here, but now it's a 1v2, and it's not planted for you. Oh, and there it is. Conestoga Condors getting 11th on the board. And now this is the question, Nerdy. You talked about frugality and, you know, being against buys when it's not, I guess, part of the norm. Is this when you're let the desperation take over and you go for a Stinger Force?
Sorry.
Oh, not even that. At this point in time, I encourage the Bulldog buy. That is,
I mean, well,
like,
I don't think you can, though. Like, if you're the team that just lost, I'm sorry. If you're UCSD, and you typically save your second round.
Yeah, if you're UCSD, don't save. You need to commit to the buy. Most definitely in this instance. You cannot play for... I mean, like, you're going to be playing for a Thrifty regardless, but playing for it with the least amount of firepower possible.
Oh, look at the Bulldog.
Not...
Did he get one?
Yippee!
But no shield? That's
I mean,
even more gutsy. On a map where they have outlaws?
I
Maybe that's why they didn't. Oh, but what I'm respecting is Panko. Oh, there's the outlaw I mentioned. But it's in Tina's hands, right? They said, all right, can't buy an operator. Let's pull out the other sniper rifle. That packs just as big of a punch, in my mind.
Enemy mark.
Spike planted.
I mean, the site's been taken. It's still 5 players. Oh, you overstayed your welcome, Grungle. How are you not dead? Okay. Buy up. Looking good for UCSD right now. 5 players still on site. Grungle knows they're low HP, so they're just playing their life here. Playing for delay, playing for distraction factor. And this is... I don't see how Conestoga Condors can flip this. Look at how low HP. I think that Outlaw connected onto the Killjoy. MGD, you've clutched out before, but a 1v3 with 10 HP, it's not in the realm of possibility. The Stingers, the Force, all align, and UCSD stem the bleeding.
Only as good as their skill. And that
And they get some free weapons in return. I mean, Grungle got to pick up a Vandal off of the one Vandal buyer. We picked up the Bulldog as well. I love to see it. I love bonus upgrades. And now, Condors, what's your response? What's the game plan? I see the Deagle buys. I see also people opting to go with light shields. Cresselia has enough bank to actually get half shields plus the Deagle, so that's going to be huge. Can you be the sheriff as well as the deputy in this instance and find these executions, though? That is my question.
This is GC. And they got the one from the Wild West, the skin. Yep. But I like this, the single aggression from Kaz in the mid. They almost fell for it, hook, line, and sinker, but they're not going to fall for is Panko here or Ella Bloom with that aggression over towards A. So you've given up this control, but look at the quick pinch play coming through from Kaz. This was a previous Reyna player, right? They're recovering Reyna, and they expected them to follow through on the flank, but unfortunately it doesn't. And what does follow through, though, is the punishment off of the Viper's wall. but the Guardian reigns supreme here without any shields. Doggio putting a stop to this round, hopefully now a 2v3. Yes, we got the Guardian collected off of as a trophy, but how do you force your way back in with these two being the agents you have left?
One enemy remaining.
You play your time right. Tina is going to say that MDG did not play their time right. And then the late swing from Kaz as well. I think they just didn't 1-2-3 at the right time to pull attention at different angles and got punished for it. Now we're at 4-11. UCSD has stemmed the bleeding and managed to get a tourniquet on it at this point in time. They're surviving. They're in the ambulance heading to triage at this point in time.
Whew. For sure. And I mean, 10-2, that's a hefty comeback, I'll say it, especially if you lost the pistol. So in my mind, we talked about Conestoga Condors and this idea of, okay, they stepped on the brakes and never let off the gas. Well, this was like UCSD is in the passenger seat and yanked the emergency brake, but now they're the ones in the driver's seat. And now they're the ones that a single, stall in the motor, and this is going to be Conestoga Condors bringing them to the destination. But that stall is yet to be found. They get a tune-up. Tina able to find a frag again with this Outlaw. Third round in a row that they've taken this in hand. And Conestoga Condors just has to learn not to swing it. Not to play too aggressive, but what's aggressive is the stack over towards the A site. They finally recognized that, all right, our calling card was B site. Well, for UCSD, it's the B starts the A site. But the other calling card is Daddy and this lurk potential. We talked about it on Lotus. They try to cash in on it, but as aware, clips that possibility. So now the options feel limited for UCSD, and that's why I think they are not fully committed to this B rotation.
We've slowed down. I like continuing to go forward, but at a slower pace, trying to mess with people. And then Doggio with the full swing onto Ellabloom catches them off guard. Grungle gets eliminated. Panko gets eliminated. We're in a 3v2. It's not favoring the Condors. We still have Spike in hand, and I do think Turret did spot someone in mid. Yeah.
Okay.
But Shroom on the off swing actually gets punished instead. It is just Tina. We've seen Tina pop off. They have so much tournament experience. They should be calm under pressure, but they can't find the elimination on the Kaz. Now, Condors are at match point.
Finally, right? And this will be huge, right? This is week number 2 for Conestoga Condors, right? So I'm not saying it's kicking off their season necessarily to a good foot since they already won week 1, but the fact that they've now disrupted their demons, right? A team that they have lost to twice, and this is the same roster again that played last year, to UCSD. This would be huge for them. It would make them feel like they can do anything, that they can maybe even win this season, the fall season of Aurora series. But job's not done yet. They got to get one more round under their belt, and there's still some money in the pockets, some emergency funds for UCSD to continue staging this comeback, but they're out of chances, right? You need 8 rounds in a row to get yourself to overtime.
Okay, so the one thing I mentioned at the beginning of the broadcast is what I was looking forward to seeing, and I mentioned how UCSD tends to be a very consistent team. They have well-methodical, thought-out plans and executions of what they want to do and how to do it. Now, if you're the Condors, you need to be aware of that, figure it out, and make adjustments, and I feel like they definitely have. They recognize the adjustments that the UCSD squad was trying to make. I think that is the power of UCSD. They are very consistent, but this consistency is also a caveat. When you have to make these minor adjustments that you're not used to having to do and change your timing on things, because we saw very succinct timing on Ascent. They're not able to do that here on Icebox, and that's why they've started to struggle a little bit and are struggling. They brought it back, but Condors adjusted. Now we have to adjust again for UCSD. They've halted their movement and are waiting to get any sort of confirm from the Condors about their locations.
And this is also a different look, I feel like, for Conestoga Condors. I like it, right? As you mentioned, waiting for that confirmation, playing a little bit further off site instead of looking for that first blood. So they can still punish the A exec before the plant comes through. But they're not going to be likely as caught off guard or out of options, right? If they start losing those duels. And look at this. A beautifully placed toxic screen conceals them from view. So now when they have that, Thrash play come in, and then Tames come through, they feel like they can swing, they can take the world as their own. But we talked about this sniper rifle now. Tina's back with the operator. When the fights start going south, can an operator bail you out? I'm like, the blades could have for Banco, but no, Grunkle with the classic. And Kaz, they've gotten 3Ks before. Look at how low HP Grunkle is. It's going to be a 1v2 of the ages. One player, I think, still has the operator in hand. And you should notice.
I mean, yeah, if I was Kaz, we're at match point. I could end this here and now. No!
They didn't wait.
They've just been a little more patient, waited for it to fully initiate. Oh, Kaz!
I can feel the pain in the voice, right? But UCSD, they stay on the train. The track's headed towards a comeback. Because now look at the economy for Conestoga Condors, and I don't know why. I feel like when you're on when you're in the the thick of a comeback, it's always the thrifty rounds that get dangerous, that gets kind of crazy. And I'm gonna be scared here, especially with this Guardian in hand, right? And Panko now unafraid to pressure forward since all they have is classic. Unfortunately, though, that's not good.
Look, you gave up a little bit more than you want when you give up your location like that, and I support the disengagement, because if you just stand there, then you're absolutely going to get eliminated, and you can't even guarantee you'll do damage or lower shield health. Whereas if you back off, you have another opportunity to do just that.
Just like that. 12.
Right here.
5 again, Deagles, Guardians in hand. It's good that Panko was able to get out unscathed, but now that Cresselia has fallen as well. We look back to some of these difference makers. MGD has been huge in that regard. Now information denied. Danny, the Killjoy alert towards B. I hope they saw that toxic screen because I want to see some more rotations from the A site. Because Kaz, I mean, I trust ya, but Guardian shot, Cat's out of the bag. Now the operator's holding your angle. You gotta be careful. And speaking of, look at where Danny is.
I want to see Danny do a little bit more. I mean, they solo held B site, got some eliminations, but it wasn't enough. And unfortunately, Danny did just cast her Curse You, and Dogio will also find themselves on the open end of a weapon. Unfortunately, UCSD down to 2 players. They do have the spike down. They have Bladestorm if they absolutely need it. But Condors, I was about to say it. There's one thing they have that is akin to what we experienced earlier, the lockdown. MGD will get eliminated, but that does not mean the lockdown is going to go away. It will not. That is going to be an opportunity for the defenders to get this spike defused. They have plenty of time to do just that. That is the Conestoga Condors. Take what?
Oh, what were you saying there? What were you saying, Nerdy? Everyone like, oh my god, look at the chat. We can't even see it. Everyone's shocked that that wasn't a clutch. And what did I say? Those thrifties are the scariest rounds when you're on the road to recovery.
They were hippity and hoppitying around that spike, and literally how they just sprinted towards it. One of them, instead of just... I need an instant replay, because you can actually see where the mistake was made. Man! Yeah, this blaring red sign of intruder alert is my anxiety right now.
Oh, but the fact that that was a thrifty mount, or again, attempt, right, means that UCSD doesn't have the best weapons. Conestoga Condors, finally Panko is able to get away with an early frag as well. This is feeling like they're carrying that momentum, like when UCSD was like, oh, we lost. Forward. Here we go. 4v5. They haven't disengaged from this A site, looking for an overextension to punish, because that's what Tina's the best at with this operator. But I think they've learned their lesson. Conestoga Condors not picking any angle without utility. Now it's the Viper's Pit just to try and bail them out here. To now allow them to avoid destruction here in their first week as well for UCSD. Like I said, by week 1, their debut for Aurora series. Whew, these Sova darts are really clean. But look at the reflank. They never planted! They're headed to B!
I mean, why not? Go fast. Danny pulled so much attention doing that. I love it. That is the type of plays that we need to see from the beginning by UCSD.
Yeah. So far, I mean, it's gotten them site control, but look, not like this, Kaz. You cannot. There's no way. There's no way. You're joking. 5v3 after what we saw in the thrifty that was lost. You just ninja defuse into the 13-6 victory, into the 2-1. Okay.
I'm speechless. I mean, honestly, the misjudgment on the defuse earlier to then transition to that one.
Yeah.
I mean, it was they didn't want to make the same mistake twice. That's all I can say. But
Oh.
I think UCSD needed to get on life support a little bit sooner than they let themselves.
Either way, I mean, the fact that, like I said, Conestoga Condors is able to right the wrongs of the past, able to upset their demons of UCSD, who's beaten them twice out already in the Aurora series, I think that sets them up for a great storyline moving forward. And that's the idea of Aurora series, right? Is to write your story in the stars. And I mean, they definitely saw a shooting star and wished on it, because that was a really, really clean way for them to, take away a map 3, especially after that 13-5 that we said was just like a slap in the face after we went to overtime on Ascent.
Yes, it was. So nicely done, Conestoga Condors, but I think we got to work on our timing when we do our little victory over towards the spike, because you even had me caught off guard on that one.
Yep.
Most of the chat was caught off guard. That was a oopsie whoopsie that could have been absolutely detrimental. Like, respect to keeping your mentality up, because moments like that where one mistake is made, even though you are well in the lead, can wreck a team's mentality. So obviously that didn't happen. They probably laughed it off, but I hope we don't see that again in the future.
And I mean, I'm just shocked as well, because I got to look at the leaderboard as well, and we already knew Tina was insane on the First Bloods, right? Because they had 5, they had the most in the lobby, because they were being that kind of factor for UCSD and trying to get those comebacks. But there really wasn't a standout player for the side of Conestoga Condors from a First Blood perspective, right? There's 2 for Ponko, and there was 2 for Kaz. So again, I feel like this map was such a team effort compared to what map 1 looked like, what map 2 looked like. And that was really, really promising here. And especially because, like I said, a lot of these players changed their roles really frequently, right? Kaz in particular, right? Like, hats off to them playing 3 different agent classes across the 3 different maps. Ella Bloom as well, right? From the controller now on the double initiator as well with that flex. Like, they're doing really, really good here. And I think that it's promising, this adjustment. I mean, Panko, I said it right, there's no standout player from a First Blood perspective, but 346 ACS, 24-7, like, yeah, we talked about, maybe their aggression was getting quelled over towards A main a little bit until the end there, but their first half, like, they were not getting shut down on B.
No, most definitely. And they were a problem, a force to reckon with that no one had a solution for, no matter how much of the kitchen sink we threw at them. And so my respect goes to Panko. But yes, Kaz, you also, my hat's off to you. I see you with the 21-9 as well. Very close to striking distance of where Panko is at in this instance for your KDA. But on top of that, the flexibility. I think what players like Kaz bring to the table, the willingness to play multiple agents and be very skilled at those agents, also means that they have an in-depth understanding of what to expect from the enemy player who's mirroring you. And when you can do that on not just Reyna, but on Viper, as well as, who did they end up playing on Lotus? My brain is forgetting. Kaz. Who did they play on Lotus?
Breach, actually.
Yeah, Breach. The ability to play literally every single role but Senti so far.
And that's gonna be MGD. Like, I wouldn't want another Sentinel player.
I mean, if MGD has to take a break, or MGD wants to play a little bit of a different role one day, maybe Kaz, you can see your Senti.
Yeah, let me see your deadlock would be kind of nutty. I'm not gonna lie. They have the frag ability, I think, to put up some numbers on that agent really, really well. Especially because we saw their Lotus, right? 13-5 when they were running a pretty standard composition. Maybe it's time for some spice. Maybe it's time for a rework. Some Vice deadlock action? Put Kaz on Vice. Do it. Trust me.
Oh, okay.
Kaz on Vice, MGD on deadlock. Trust me, guys. All right. Redonda, hear me and my plea. All right.
I will agree with that one for now, but I don't know if they will.
We don't know, but we'll have to see it in a future week, because that is all we have for our first debut production of Aurora series. We thank you for stopping by, for dealing with us as we get through the kinks of the first week here. And stay tuned, because we are going to be getting a little broadcast rework, a new package as well. So we love our roots and what this package offered us for last year, but it's nice to add some new color to your life, right? It gets boring when you see the same constellations in the sky. But Artie, it was a pleasure getting to cover the opening of Aurora series with you, and also kudos to our background personnel for the day. We had our amazing producer Rachat and our amazing observer Kiana, who will be here all season. We also have some collegiate casters nerdy coming in for our next few weeks, which is going to be Happa and Ancient Angel. So that's the duo you get to look forward to, nerdy. But anything else you'd like to say before we close out for the evening?
No, just hope everyone gets a good night's sleep. Stay happy, stay healthy, and because we're in the middle of the school year, don't forget to do your homework.
With that, go do your homework, and we will see you next week with the Aurora series.